Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order, please. We'll start with the roll call, please, Kristen.
Tracy Bricky.
Here.
Sally Hurst Dickinson. Here. Julia Jones. Here. Melissa Muzzy. Here. Jessica Wheeler Russell. Here. Laura Vincent. Here. Daniel York. David Nesbitt. Here. Stacy Jarvis. Here. Tom Liberty. Here. Lorna Carlisle. Yes.
I'm sorry, it was I should have told you Dan York is absent tonight. He couldn't be here. All right, next is the pledge. Where is the?
Oh, over here. Oh, no.
I think it's over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did you want to say something before we start?
So before we get things underway, I just wanted to take a moment to sort of capture some of the work that has happened and how we have been focusing ourselves as we do it. So you'll see on this first slide, we have identified the priorities that we are working with as we begin to do this difficult work. The first being that we are prioritizing academic growth and achievement. We strive to maintain high-quality educational experiences for all students. Retaining as many of our faculty and staff as possible is another priority. And then continuing our work towards our new plan for financial well-being. That was something that Randy and myself introduced to the board as we began this school year, earlier this school year, and we want to continue to do that work as well. So as far as the process goes, what we have been doing so far, we've been quite busy, as you can imagine. To date, we've had 4 meetings with the MVSD admin team. We've consulted with the district legal counsel. We've consulted with the New Hampshire School Board Association legal counsel. We've consulted with the New Hampshire Commissioner of Education. We've consulted with 2 superintendents with experience in this process. We've had 2 meetings with the representatives from the MVEA. We've also had meetings with the MVSSA and the MVAA. And we reviewed all submitted board feedback. So as we begin to do this work tonight, the guiding principles, or to steal a phrase from Tom that he used in a conversation we had, our ground rules. Conversation tonight is going to be focused on budget lines, which are not contractually or statutorily obligated. People and positions are not going to be a topic for discussion this evening. All right, and so I'm going to turn that back over to you, Tracy.
So we will get, whoops, thanks. So we'll get started in the agenda, which is public comment. Please keep in mind that there will be 3 minutes. Individual speakers are allotted three minutes. And Fred, where is he? Oh, there he is. Fred will have the microphone, and so if you raise your hand, he will come to you. And we are looking for everybody to speak only once. Thank you. Fred, up in the back there.
Do I need to tell you Kelly Denoncourt Pennacook? I'm also a proud teacher in this district, and I live in this district as well. This morning, the union reps all read either part or some of a statement that was written by the union executives for the Certified Staff Union. And I wanted to read that because I think it's very important for everybody to hear. I want to take a moment to stand together and recognize the reality that we, right here in Merrimack Valley, are feeling the same budget cuts and uncertainty that are sweeping across this country. We've seen the headlines, we've heard the news, and we know the situation is dire, not just for our students, but for all of us as educators. The Merrimack Valley School District, like so many other districts nationwide, is facing an alarming $1.9 million cut to our budget. And let me tell you, those cuts are not just numbers on a piece of paper. They represent real people, our students, our colleagues, and our communities. These cuts don't just mean fewer supplies or less funding for programs. The extreme budget cut just passed will have dire consequences for our students and their education, including larger class sizes, fewer resources, and fewer opportunities for students who need the most support. They will degrade the educational experience we are so committed to providing and take away essential programs that keep our kids engaged and thriving. These cuts represent lost opportunities, lost futures, and a system that is under siege. And while we're facing these challenges right here in Merrimack Valley, the stakes are even higher when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture. As we have seen over the last several weeks, the push to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education has begun. The students are paying the price. Financial aid offices are understaffed, support is vanishing, and educators are expected to fill the gaps again. The U.S. Department of Education is the backbone of public education in the United States. All students benefit from programs run by the Department of Education, especially lower-income students, students in rural communities, and students with disabilities. Dismantling the education department and firing up to 50% of its employees will have a profound effect on schools in New Hampshire. Stripping away the Department of Education is not just an abstract political move, it's a direct attack on public education and on our kids. Without the federal support that ensures equal opportunity and civil rights protections, our schools will be left with even fewer resources to help the most vulnerable students. It would be a disaster for districts like ours, where every dollar counts and where our students need every bit of support we can give them. If Congress doesn't stop the effort to dismantle the Department of Education, New Hampshire will pay for it. $61.1 million in IDEA funding is on the line.
Sorry, that's 3 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, though. Thank you very much.
Pat Pike from Pennacook. I would just like to thank the board for working, no doubt, lots and lots of extra hours. The SAU staff and all staff here have my full faith and confidence that they're going to be transparent, because that's all they ever are, is transparent with all their actions. I don't need to see invoices in every single bill. These people are honest, they work hard, and all they want to do is make our students better. And that is all they're trying to do with the educators as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. There's some, oh, Fred? There's,
Hi. You're doing a great job. Thanks, Fred. Erica Hall, I live in Loudon, and I also work at the high school, and I'd like to finish reading what we started reading. If Congress doesn't stop the effort to dismantle the Department of Education, New Hampshire families will be hurt. Public education cuts lead to larger class sizes, yes they do, and less support for students and educators. Public schools that serve lower income students and their families in rural, suburban, and urban communities in every part of the country would lose needed funding. Students and families who receive support to attend college could lose Pell Grants or federal student loans, leading to more students dropping out, fewer choices, and less options for families. Students with disabilities and their families would lose the support they need at school and at home. Our students deserve better. They deserve a school district and a Department of Education that is fully staffed and fully funded. Here's the good news. Merrimack Valley, we're not backing down. Just like we're fighting back against the 1.9 million cuts here in our district, we will fight back against these destructive national policies because our students are counting on us. We are not going to let anyone dismantle our public schools, not on the local level, not at the state, and not on the federal level. We will stand up, we will fight back, whether it's defending our district from further cuts, pushing for better state funding, or organizing against the dismantling of our Department of Education. We will continue to raise our voices and demand that our students get the education they deserve. We won't be silent. We will continue to organize, continue to advocate, and continue to mobilize because we know that when we stand together, we win. Just like the 60% of Americans who oppose the efforts to dismantle the Department of Education, we know that families across Merrimack Valley and across the country want the same thing: strong public schools that give every student the chance to succeed. Let's remember, we're fighting for more than just textbooks and supplies. We're fighting for our students' futures, my children's futures. We are fighting for quality education that everyone deserves, and most importantly, we are fighting for the community of Merrimack Valley, where every child is worthy of a chance to thrive. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your fight, all of you. Let's keep pushing back against these cuts, and let's keep showing up for our students, for our colleagues, and for our community. Solidarity forever, MV.
Thank you. Fred?
Thank you. Name is Andrew Snurch, and my daughter goes to this school over here. 2 questions. Who is going to pick up the slack of the money that's been taken out of the budget? Is it you all? Is it going to be the county, or is it going to be the state? And second, what about the people, the students that have special needs? Are they going to get a lot of cuts? Are they going to be missing a lot of teachers' aides? I want to know these things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Kitson, Loudon. So at the meeting where we discussed the budget, I stood up there and I started with 2 words: competence and caring. And in the following weeks, I saw competence and caring from the elected school board members, the outer table. They cared. Tom did an amazing job going through the budget line by line to find the money to not send people to the unemployment line. That was the default answer from the head table. The unemployment line. Why? When these board members raised their hand and said, we found the money, we don't need to send one person packing. But the head table's decision was, we're going to take bonuses, we're going to get pay raises at the expense of our teachers. I support the plan that Tom and these other members put forward. I hope the board supports it as well. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Liz Duclos. I live in Pennacook. My son is an elementary student over at Pennacook Elementary. I'm also an educator from a local district that experienced a $3 million cut last year. I beg of you, I thank you, but I really beg of you to really take a look at all the quality teachers that you have. My husband and I had a lot of choices for houses, and we chose to live in this district because of the school. We knew that it was supported, we knew that children were loved and taken care of, and so please know that that was a strategic decision on our part. Because of that, we truly hope that you hold on to as many quality educators as you can, because I can tell you from knowing many of them, they deserve to be here, they love our children, and they care for our children, and they sure as heck do teach our children. So please, please hang on to them. If you can be very creative, maybe we don't pave a parking lot this year. Maybe we don't put on a roof improvement. If it means that there can be more teachers to help our students and support our learners, I would be in full support of that. I know that sounds like a little bit odd because you want to make sure your facilities are maintained, but I think we can really look at being very creative, if possible, so that we don't experience what local districts are experiencing with larger class sizes and trickier decisions. But again, I want to thank you and the board and Randy and everybody for being continually transparent, and I appreciate all of your work, so thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Katie Goodwin. I'm a teacher here at the high school. As a special education teacher here at the high school and a proud MV graduate, I want to express my unwavering support for Dr. Wormold, Catherine Masterson, and the school board. Their dedication to our students, staff, and community is evident in everything they do, and as they continue to work tirelessly to provide the best possible education for our students, even in the face of these difficult financial challenges. I have the opportunity to work elsewhere, could be closer to home or for a higher salary, but I choose to stay at MV because of the people. The support and sense of community here are unmatched, and I see firsthand how much our leadership cares about creating a positive and enriching environment for both students and staff. I can't imagine another district where I would see the superintendent walking the halls, chatting with staff, reading to elementary students, or taking part in a friendly yet competitive staff versus student dodgeball game during Winter Carnival. These things aren't in the job description. These things are a reflection of who our leaders truly are. They're the kind of role models that I look up to and who I want my children and my students to look up to. While the budget vote was disappointing, I remain confident in the leadership of our district and in their commitment to finding a way forward. I hope that as a community, we can continue to work together to support our schools and ensure the best for our students.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Lira, an educator in our district, and I'd like to read a letter I wrote to the school board as well. Dear members of the Merrimack Valley School Board, I'm writing to express my unwavering support for the leadership of our Superintendent Randy and Assistant Superintendent Catherine. As a dedicated educator in the Merrimack Valley School District, I've had the privilege of growing professionally under their guidance. And I'm deeply grateful for the opportunities they have provided me. My journey in education began as a 5th grade teacher at Loudon Elementary School. After stepping away to work in higher education, I felt a strong pull to return to Merrimack Valley, a place that has always valued student-centered learning and professional growth. I came back first as an interventionist at Bosquen Elementary and later stepped into my current role as district ELA specialist, a transition made possible by the encouragement and support of our district leaders. Catherine, who was my building principal before moving into district leadership, exemplifies strong leadership and a steadfast commitment to student success. Her guidance reinforced my belief in the power of high expectations, collaborative problem solving, and putting students first. Principles I was introduced to early in my career by my first building principal, Tom LaLiberty, who now serves on the school board. When I stepped into my current role, Randy was my primary point of contact. From the beginning, he made me feel valued, heard, and respected. His leadership fosters a culture where educators are empowered to innovate and grow, always with the goal of improving student outcomes. His and Catherine's vision for our schools has strengthened our district and made it a place where teachers and students alike can thrive.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the back?
Hi, Jared Smith. I live in Bosquen. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to you. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the work you've done. I know you've been put under a lot of stress, so I thank each and every one of you for serving us. I want to stress that when it comes to cuts, I think if non-sports clubs are going to be under consideration, I do think that sports should be under equal consideration, because I frankly think that things such as the art club, all sort of clubs like that, they provide a sense of community to a group of people who are a lot less likely to get that sense of community than those with sports. So I think when it comes to cut considerations, I would stress that non-sports clubs are under equal consideration with sport, sports are under equal consideration to non-sports clubs, because there are people who only real sense of community, so the art club they join or the French club or whatever it is, and a cut to that is equally as harsh as a cut to a sport. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Megan Schmidt, Pennacook. I just wanted to say thank you for calling this extra meeting. I know there was some confusion at the last meeting, whether it's the superintendent or the school board that creates the plan that we'll be voting on next week, or I'm sorry, that you'll be voting on next week. I talked to the commissioner today. I know you guys have had several meetings, so I'm sure by now you all know that the school board gets a say. You guys get to make motions, you get to make cuts. And there have been a lot of really great suggestions that have not been cutting positions. So I hope that you all have lots of things to offer up tonight. And again, just wanted to say thank you all for calling this extra meeting.
Thank you.
Therese Baxter Ashloud in New Hampshire. I, again, also want to thank you for having this meeting. For those of you that weren't at the last board meeting on the 10th, came straight in and superintendent said, I'm cutting 20 positions. The rest of the board members said, no, 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 we found the money. No position, no program, no child, no teacher should be impacted. It was an increase that was voted, a 3% increase over last year, along with 5 positions that never got filled, $300,000 in the food service. There's money there. What we did was we looked at the 75-year-old who's pushing carts in Walmart, who can't afford to keep a roof over his head. And we said, the population, the student population is coming down. There's still enough money here for us to do everything we've done this last fiscal year. Randy, for you to emotionally abuse the faculty and the children this week,
Okay.
is absolutely abhorrent. I am a taxpayer, and I am going to speak to the fact that children are coming home in tears because they think they're going to lose their favorite teacher. Our children should not be a part of this at all at this point until decisions are truly made. You've got the assistant superintendent of Bedford now on the board. Bedford School District has their check register available online for every taxpayer to look at exactly where the money is going. If you want to render our support, we love these children. We love these teachers. But we want to make sure every dollar is going exactly where it needs to go, and we just had a $2 million overrun. So for those of you that haven't been on the journey and haven't been there for the vote and weren't there on the 10th, we stand for the teachers. We have said no teacher should be lost tonight. All of it should come from the surplus. And that is the truth. And you had 6 out of your 10 board members walking out last Monday on the 10th upset because they were shut down. And we had to go through legal, we had to go all the way up and show them the evidence that he reports to them. They hire him, they fire him, they decide whether or not he gets a bonus. And this superintendent making $176,000 a year is not working in your best interest.
Fred, there's another person down front here who had his hand up before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Erin Moore from Webster.
Okay. Wait until she speaks, please. Okay. So, well, one person at a time.
I'm going to have you wait a minute because I have the microphone. Thanks so much. My name is Erin Moore from Webster. My children go through the district. I've been an educator locally for 22 years, and now I own an education consulting firm where I travel around the country working with schools. The reason I bring that up is because I have seen what happens when we make significant cuts. I am working in classrooms all over the place where there are 28 to 30 students with one adult in the room, with 5 to 10 students who are below the grade level that they need to be at. And the teacher is trying to figure out how to not only do the job that they were hired to do, but do it in a way that meets those needs, that is connected to their passion and their philosophy and their belief system. I am personally offended by what was just said. And one of the most dangerous things that's going on right now in our society is the level of disinformation and misinformation that is spewed all over the place. Until you spend some time in a classroom in public education, and then I am worried for you. I am worried for you. We support teachers, we support administrators. We need to be looking at facts, not opinions, not this flow, this spew of hatred. And we need to be able to stick to basic civil discourse, which is what we public teachers do when we teach our students to talk to one another and listen. This should stay polite and civil, and it should be based on facts. Otherwise, I don't know what we're gonna do with the next generation of learners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to respond because it makes me upset.
Can I have your name,
when
please?
Oh, sorry. I'm Kim Beatty, and I teach at Loudon. And I've
Thank
been
you.
teaching for 24 years at Loudon and 33 years as an educator. And I love my students. I pay out of pocket for many, many, many things for my students. I give up my recess and work countless hours for my students. And when I hear in the newspaper that you are ready to cut the budget 50%, how is that caring for us? Second of all, I just want to support Catherine and Randy, and especially Catherine, who was our principal for 9 years in Loudon, who did a great job, who cared about the students and the staff, who was calm in the crisis of different things that happened. And I want to say what's going on and what's happening and the viciousness of things that are being said is just awful. And every day we have a quote in my room and we talk about how to have integrity and respect and tolerance and kindness. And yes, using your voice, but for good. And to stand up for each other. And it makes me sad. And that's it.
Thank you.
Larry Boucher, longtime community member, retired teacher coach here at the Valley. I must tell you that what I've witnessed this year at this meeting, these meetings that we've had, the first time in my life I've been ashamed of our community. I feel like an old coach here, bringing a team together and talking about winning in the newspaper. That's kind of sad. I think the only win here is when we come together and we talk about the interests of our kids. Thank you.
Fred.
Jen Mercer Loudon. First, do you have to be a resident to speak at these meetings?
Or a staff member.
Okay, I wasn't aware. Second, I just want to say thank you for having these meetings. I appreciate the transparency by having it. I'm praying that discussions and negotiations would be in good faith and we truly find areas where monies can be saved while not compromising teacher positions, programs, and services, and that this meeting is not all for show. You want some facts? I've compiled a list of budget increases from the annual reports listed on the website and found that for fiscal year 2017 and 2018, it was a 1.9% increase. 18 to 19 was a 0.93% increase. From 2019 to 2020, it was 1.0% increase. From 2020 to 2021, it was 0.98% increase. From 21 to 22, it was 0.56 increase. Fiscal year 22 to 23, it was 2.25. Fiscal year 23 to 24, 3.39. 24 to 25, 5.91. 25 to 26, 6.95 was the asked increase, but instead it received increase was a 3.00, which is not a cut. When I see that written down, I'm shocked that from 2017 to fiscal year 2020, the highest increase was 2.25%, which was in 2022. With most before that around 1%, and one even being at 0.5%. When you couple that with the more facts of the steady decline in enrollment, which can be found also on the annual reports, October 1st of 2015, there were 2,575 students. 2016 had 2,483, which was a loss of 92. 2017 was 2,449, which is a loss of 34. 2018 was 2,388, which is another loss of 61. 2019, it was 2,356, which was a loss of 32. 2020 had 2,204, which was a loss of 152 due to COVID. 2021, there was a gain of 2, so it's 2,206. 22, it was 2,226, which is a gain of 20. Then October 1st of 2023, it was 2,215, which was another loss of 11. And then this last October, it was 2,167, which is a loss of 48. If you compare the $39.5 million budget for fiscal year 2016 to 2017, where there were 2,483 students, to the approved $49.7 million budget for 25-26, where there were 2,167 students, that's a 26% increase in dollars for a student body that has 316 less students. My point is...
That's 3 minutes, thank you. Fred, can you get this man down front here?
My name's CJ Cronin. I live in Loudon. There's people building houses all over Loudon. There's going to be...
Pardon me, can you say that again?
Sorry.
That's okay.
There's lots of people building houses in my town in Loudon. So I would expect there's going to be higher class sizes at the elementary school already for next year than there are this year. So please don't cut any teachers in Loudon. I think our taxes just went up too, so that should help keep people there. Our taxes doubled, yeah. So we want to keep as many teachers as we can. We should be able to do that. And also, only 517 people voted at that meeting after 11 p.m. on the school budget. That's really kind of pathetic. There's almost probably like 300 people at this meeting. So we should be doing something better to get this in front of more people. Maybe we have it on at the election. Maybe we can vote on this budget rather than having like people that might have a small social media following be able to like throw us off like this in the future.
Thank you.
Nick Gelinas, Loudon. So as a student here at Merrimack Valley High School, I just wanted to kind of clear the air that administrators and teachers have not mentally abused me or any of my friends. I also just want to thank the teachers because I know how hard it is for you to come into work every day and teach while having to worry about your job and your life. And each and every one of you continues to teach at the highest level for your students. Thank you. And lastly, I thank Dr. Wormald and Mrs. Masterson for trying your hardest to work with this budget. Your hard work does not go unnoticed from many of the students here at the Valley. There's been so many opportunities that you guys have given me, and I have full trust in you guys that many other students in the future will have the same opportunities that I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Renaud Loudon, Lisa Renaud Pennacook. I wrote this at a time when I was really concerned about programs and people. I have full faith in Randy and Catherine and the board, but these were my thoughts, and I just want to share. So what is the worth of a child? What is the worth of a child on either end of an academic range? What is the worth of a child who has physical or mental health illnesses? Now that our district will be sliced and diced for whatever the real reason is, I ask again, what is the worth of a child and their well-being? What is the worth of your child and their well-being? The argument of wanting the budget cut because the increase in taxes is for the betterment of our most vulnerable children and families is very valid, and I cannot argue that. But the programs and the staff that could be cut could be far more serious and egregious in nature for all our students and families. If everyone in the room truly cares about our students and families, we have to be very careful with how and what programs we cut. For our students who have reached middle school and high school levels, especially our seniors, and they see their educational experience change, what will we tell them? You don't matter anymore? We don't care about you enough anymore? You are no longer worthy of the education you are used to? As for our littles, are we comfortable starting their education experience with less than what their older siblings had, or just less than in general? To crush their dreams when the time finally comes for them to belong to a group or activity and it no longer exists. All students in our schools are in our schools for 7+ hours a day, where they are in a safe, warm, and caring environment with professionals who are there not only to educate them, but to be their shelter, to shelter them from their many storms. I work in the high school, and I see the students at their highest highs, but also at their lowest lows. We all gather and celebrate those highest highs and all those wonderful accomplishments, getting into a first-choice college, getting their first job, winning a sporting championship, hearing the encore musicals, celebrating the awards for our artists and musicians, and so many more. It is in these moments that make us feel proud, enthusiastic, and hopeful for our future. But there are also the lowest lows, the sadness, suffering, and difficulties that are quieter and harder to see. But I witness on a regular basis, there is that one person who notices. I get that call from a teacher who says, "Can someone please check in with so-and-so? They seem a little off today. They're just not themselves." They see things that maybe no one else will see, and they act on it. I see the look of concern and care in their eyes, in their voices, and in their actions. These are not moments that are displayed in the pages of the yearbook, on the websites, or on social media. But these for me are some of the most important, proudest moments, how the admin, faculty, and staff rally around. Every day when I leave the school, I know that some adult helped some student get through their day and make sure to welcome them back the next. I have watched MV School District work so hard for years to build themselves up to be a respected, competitive school, and a school that I was proud to send my kids to. And for now, having to witness our district being so divided is heartbreaking.
Excuse me, that's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, Ellie Andrews from Loudoun. I would like to say that my success as a student is 100% because of every single one of the teachers that I have had in my education. And I would truly not be here without any of them. And I would also like to note that the successful students you see at our school, the ones that are most successful are the ones that are most active in our community. And it's really disheartening to see that our budget got cut by so much because I was so successful because of the opportunities I had, because of the opportunities my teachers were able to give me, and because of the funding that each one of my activities received. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to finish Lisa's note. I'm Robert Montgomery. I work at the high school as a history teacher. But this is for Lisa. And for me now, having to witness our district being so divided is heartbreaking. Whatever that fulfills, for whatever reasons, it really hurts our children the most, and especially our most vulnerable children. We don't have to have all the bells and whistles, and we never have, but we have always had the essentials. academics, music, art, theater, athletics, and health supports. So I ask again, what is the worth of an MV child and their well-being? Is it worth losing programs that will help our children feel engaged and accomplished? Is it worth taking away their purpose and whatever they are most passionate about that makes them feel worthy? And is it worth losing that one teacher who may have noticed that one child, maybe your child, was a little off today and saved them? I guess for me, that would have been worth an increase in my tax bill. But for now, I ask that we be very careful and thoughtful on how we slice and dice. Everything matters when it comes to their multifaceted needs, so we all need to look at these issues through the lens of the children, not ours, and what would matter to them the most, not us.
Thank you.
David Hemingway Webster. I want to start off by saying that I am a fiscal conservative myself, and I understand the pressures that everybody's been under. I get the opportunity to try and make the best of it for our town as part of the select board, and I understand that the school board's job is not easy doing this and trying to deal with a budget as well. That being said, I have a different perspective on this that I'd like to say. I grew up in Massachusetts, and at the time that they passed what they called Proposition 2.5. Both of my parents were teachers, and I was a student in the school. Both of my parents lost their jobs. My class sizes ballooned. Our education went downhill. All of the arts and music and everything else disappeared. Those were the programs I thrived in. So to say that something like this will not affect the students, will not affect the quality, is a farce. It absolutely will. Any student will be able to see that. Teachers will also know that you can't just throw money at things. That doesn't make it better. The teachers are what make things better. And I'm under no disillusion that I will agree with everything that every teacher is going to say. But I know that all of our teachers absolutely have the best interest in mind for all of our students. And that's really critical. So I will end with that there and put the second portion to the board. Thank you for calling this extra meeting so that all of these discussions and the possibilities are put in front of people instead of just a kind of one and done proposal at the next meeting that had originally been talked about. So thank you very much to all of the board. And the last point I'll make is that I understand all of the political things that have been said, for example, from the teachers union. We're not going to change any of that tonight. We're not bringing any of the budget back tonight. So please, let's focus on solutions. The solutions are what are important for all of our students that live in the district and are served by the district. Thank you.
Fred?
Hi there, Oberon Dickinson, Pennacook. So in kind of going off of what the current students have been saying, I graduated from Merrimack Valley High School in 2023. I was not at the meetings in the past because I was away at college, where I study at Clarkson University, getting a double major in biology and political science in the honors program. And I bring this up because obviously I would not be where I am today without the support that I had from the teachers, from Mrs. Garland back in kindergarten to my homeroom teacher in high school. This is very important to me, as well as the club aspect of this. I was in nearly all of the musical ensembles. I was in sports for 4 years at high school. I did the musical theater. I was in Tri-M. I was in National Honor Society. And these things affect student health and prosperity more than at the high school. They go into the future as well. At Clarkson University, it's a small school. There's only about 3,000 undergraduate students, and there's only 2 D1 sports on the campus, and those are ice hockey, men's and women's, and everything else is D3. The ice hockey teams travel in the ECAC conference, and the pep band at Clarkson University travels with them to support the teams. The women's team went to the national quarterfinals, and the men's team are headed to the conference semifinals right now. And as part of the pep band, I get to travel with them. I get to go to Dartmouth and Harvard and play for the team there. So the pep band has been a huge form of socialization for me at college, and I would not have that way to get to know people, to make friends, to maintain human contact in a place in New York where the nearest major city is Ottawa and the second nearest major city is Montreal. There's nothing to do up there except things that are on campus. So the clubs that you have in high school, the things that you have in high school, whether that's music, art, sports, that will, if you choose to go to college, that will be your form of connection to people, because it can be very isolating if you don't have that support. And so thank you to all the teachers I've ever had, thank you to all the club advisors, and thank you to the school board.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anybody else, so now, oh, sorry, there's someone in the front row. They're hidden by the tablecloth.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Flewelling. I'm from Loudoun. I'm just finishing what Jennifer had to say earlier today. If you compare the $39.5 million budget, oh, I want to make it clear to you kids, it wasn't a cut, it was a 3% increase from the budget from last year. So it wasn't a cut, okay? All right, good, so you're aware. So if you compare the $39.5 million budget for year 2016 to 17, where there were 2,483 students to the approved $49.7 million budget for year 2025 and 26, there were 2,167 students as of October 1st. That's a 26% increase in dollars for a student body that has 316 less students.
Fewer.
Okay. 87.3% of the numbers in 2016. My point is that we made it work back then with a lot less money and a lot more students. And I'm confident that we can make this budget work without teacher positions and programs being cut, despite the significant increase in special education and other costs. This is why I voted against or for the amended budget. Please listen to what others have to say and then apply to those ideas before approving any teaching positions or program cutting. As a reminder, per Frank Edelbut of the Department of Education, the board does have final say in this budget, not the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I think that that's it. Nope, one in the back. Fred, straight ahead.
Larry Caruso, Loudoun. I want to thank the previous speaker there for saying some of what I was going to say. I did a little ciphering for my tax bills, and where a lot of this is coming from is many of us are just tapped out. I went in my file, I grabbed what I had in there, had about 9 years going back to 2012 to 2020, and I wrote them all down on a piece of paper and did a little bit of math, and it's about a 12% increase in taxes in those 9 years. And then I looked at 2021 to 2024, a 52% increase. Folks, that's unsustainable. It's unsustainable. And this was not a cut. This was just a reduction in the budget that you asked for, you still got money. If you count the money that you went over last year, you got even more money. And I also want to point out that as far as I know, there is no law in New Hampshire that would prevent any of the folks who feel that they should be giving more from writing a check. There really isn't. As far as I can't find it. I'm not the best Google searcher, but I have not been able to find it. So as far as I know, you can do that. And I think I'll end it right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Fred.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Zachary DeZura. I live in Andover, but my oldest son attends Bosquen Elementary. As a taxpayer, I do recognize how heart attack inducing it is seeing your tax bill go up, especially 50%. I know I lost a couple of years more than my fair share of hair. I do want, however, to put some context into the what was said earlier about the how we made the dollars go further back in 2015, 2016. I graduated from Merrimack Valley back in 2009. I have no idea what the budget was back then. But I do know that inflation has taken its fair share of our spending power away. And I just did a quick Google search, and back in 2015, what cost $1 now costs $1.36. That's it works out to be about a 34.6% increase in inflation. That means that while, yes, we did spend less money back in the day for more students, that money does not go as far. I have full confidence that the school board is going to do what's best for our students. I have full confidence that you're going to do what's best for my children. But I do want that to be on everybody's minds. Yes, we spent less back in the day, but today our dollars do not go as far. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I think that's it. Nope, I lied. I lied. I didn't mean to, but I did.
Hi, Keith Morgan, Pennacook. I do want to tack on to the fact that there was, I believe, something of a capital gains tax that was cut, and noticing that, yes, there has been some increases, and as a taxpayer, I'm not excited about the property taxes either, as a Pennacook resident, but I think that when it comes to the quality of education, it's really important. Now, I can't speak from, graduating from here. I went to a small school in Arkansas, and I don't know if you've ever noticed, but we're kind of racing to the bottom back there when it comes to education. But I think it's really important to consider the work that these teachers, that they provide to students, and make the appropriate cuts that don't affect the students when it comes to their education.
Thank you.
Jesse Schmidt, Pennacook. I know a little bit of what I'm about to say, probably not going to be the most popular thing here, but one of the other things that has been clearly demonstrated by the last couple of years of this board, and I'll kind of agree that I'm looking a lot more at the head table at this point, especially given the last school board meeting. But one of the other things that we need to be teaching is accountability, because that is clearly not coming through. And I'm sorry, but accountability is not taught through just giving the gentle response. It's just like with our kids, not everything can come through as just the oh, please don't do that. We need to teach the right way. We need to be able to have that unpopular conversation, the uncomfortable conversation. I'm not saying it has to be harsh. but it's not always going to be popular. We need the accountability. To have the budget go over $2 million last year is ridiculous. And the fact that it's seemingly, this meeting only really was called for the public to actually be involved in some of these proceedings, which I really hope that that's what we're actually going to talk about tonight, is some of those ideas and seeing that public transparency. But the fact that it seems like, I'm sorry, not fact, what it seems like is that this was only called after the Commissioner of Education in this state was contacted multiple times and communicated. That's an atrocity, especially since at the last school board meeting, there was a call for a meeting and it was shut down. So that's a piece of where it's seeming. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the fact that it wasn't even considered during that last meeting, that should be a pretty stark reminder and a stark showing. And there's only 1 or 2 people on the board that shot that down. So I'd want everybody in here to think about that, and especially want the board members to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Fred, I think you're done for now. Thank you.
All right, so what we have, what you have in front of you and what you also will see up on the screen momentarily.
I don't know that you're on.
We're just not close enough. Can you hear me? Okay. Either up on the screen or on the paper, we took all of the lines that weren't contractually or statutorily required. So we left off things that are salaries, we left off special education, things like that. We put all of those lines on this document. So on your paper, it's 3 pages, and we have those going all the way down, and thought that might be appropriate to have going chunk by chunk. You'll see where there's adjusted cuts, that column, and it's totaling up right up above here. And as Catherine mentioned at the beginning, we're not talking about people or positions or anything like that today. This is just to get some general feelings from the board on some of the different things from these lines. So give you a minute to digest, and then Catherine may have a couple of things to say. And you'll notice some of them have some notes on them, and some of them might be listed as a 1-year moratorium because it's not something that's sustainable for a multiple year, but certainly could do it to meet up with the cuts that we need to make. So maybe give you a couple of minutes, or Catherine, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I was just going to add a little context. So you will notice on some of the lines that it has a particular town after, for example, if you're looking at those first 1100s, that indicates that that is part of a building level budget. So that is something that the principals are prioritizing the needs of their building, of their students, and that reflects a line from their budget. And what you might notice is that the numbers may not entirely make sense to you because of the discrepancies between, like, for example, you see Pennacook and Boscawen's conference line. It's because the principals have the ability to transfer money between lines in advance of the start of the school year based on what the building priorities are. So they have some flexibility within their budget, but their budget has a pretty standard total amount. Those budgets are not added to on an annual basis. I think you're on. Am I on now? Maybe pull it in. No, you're not, Jesse. I'm not on yet. Maybe right here. No, the
No, it's on. Thank you. All right, I'll make this a little easier. I just want to make sure I understand. So column, this is amount from budget. That's the total amount that's in the budget currently, and then adjusted cuts would be what you were thinking about doing.
Yeah,
correct?
so
Okay.
that's, that was based on feedback from either, feedback from you folks sending in or the administrative team when they were looking at where they could cut, realizing that we're going to have, cuts from a variety of places. And those were things that they felt that either in the short term or long term could cut from individual budget lines.
Thank you.
Sorry. So is there a total for what's put in there right now? So that's a 1.03? Okay, thank you. So, all right. No, you can, I don't know how that matches up, but I just need a few minutes to try to digest this a little bit.
Okay. I'll wait to ask my question then when everyone else is finished reading.
My question is, line number 1290, summer school reading, elementary, it says cut to all non-special ed. So would that be Title I?
No, so those are funding for regular education, summer opportunities. So the elementary is currently used to fund the summer STEAM program.
Mm-hmm. And the middle school is their middle school summer camp. Is that, no? What's the middle school summer program? Summer enrichment, thank you. And the high school summer program?
So we have actually, in previous years, been able to leverage ESSER funding to fund those programs. We don't have that funding this year, but the funding that's indicated there would be used to support summer program for regular education.
Thank you.
I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So, for example, these summer programs you're discussing right now is like the STEAM program at PES and BES, right? That would be
Yes, the summer STEAM program that is held at typically Pennacook would not be happening next summer.
Thank you. I'd like to ask about line 2213, et cetera, about the course reimbursement. What is, could you tell me what the acronym MOA is so that folks know?
Memorandum of Agreement.
Right, so we already agreed on this, correct?
We have talked with, well, we already agreed that they have that as part of their contract. So where it says an MOA, we did, during our meetings with the unions, we were looking at ways that to potentially put some things on the table for you folks to consider as part of the cuts. And they were in agreement that a concession could be made to do really a one-year moratorium on course reimbursement and workshops.
They agreed to this, that's
So all three unions that we spoke with were agreeable to make that change.
And could you please define line item 2212 curriculum work, please? And what that means in layman's terms.
Yeah, so that, that line has been used in previous years to support summer curriculum work. Teachers come in and do work around the curriculum. They work in collaborative groups, and it's a pretty critical area as far as advancing our curriculum. I think it is something we could go without for a summer. It's not something that I would want us to sustain long term. I would be concerned about the long-term detrimental effect.
How does that benefit teachers year-round, having this summer kind of prep work? Can you explain to me?
Sure. Honestly, teachers spend the vast majority of their day teaching. They don't have a tremendous amount of time to plan and prepare and to dig into curriculum. And so it is in those summer opportunities that they can really do that deep dive, that they can look to improve their units that they have previously addressed. If they have a new course assigned to them, that's a great opportunity for them to consider what their syllabus is going to be and the content that they're going to cover.
So the detriment to doing this would be disallowing them the summer time to prep for the entire school year, plan all their units around all this stuff, so it would press them for more time, I assume?
Yeah, it definitely is going to increase their burden as far as the work that they're going to have to do during the school year. I think that it's a unique, I wouldn't say it's unique, other schools offer this opportunity, but I do think it's something that in talking to other superintendents, our teachers have taken advantage of this opportunity and they've done some really great work. So I do know that they will feel the impact of not having this.
Yeah.
If I could just throw in a little anecdote to go along with what Catherine's saying. When I was speaking to a superintendent who they offer summer curriculum work and they can't get teachers to show up and to take advantage of it. And they pay, I don't want the teachers to hear this, but they pay their per diem in this other school district, and they still can't get people to go. And he said, he was asking me, well, how do you get your teachers? I said, because we have awesome people that want to work together and collaborate with each other, because we have hundreds and hundreds of days worth of work that's crammed into that into that summer time for that collaboration. So I think it speaks a lot to the teachers that we have, that they want to spend that time and do that work over the summer, but understanding that we're in a tough time where we have to make some cuts. I think we can scale that back and then look to reset moving forward.
Can we talk about some of the things that we may or may not agree upon now?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
I'm fine.
Is that all right with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at 1410, the co-curricular, and I'm not willing to do away with those. The co-curricular elementary, middle school, and high school.
Do you also mean elementary school as well?
I said elementary, middle school, and high school. Sorry, that's okay.
Can you explain your reasoning?
Well, for the reason that these students just talked about, and one of our former students spoke about, I don't believe that eliminating co-curricular, even if it is only for 1 year, would serve our students or our communities.
I agree. I'd be concerned with the setback and then what we'd have to do to catch up in the next year over that. So I also agree with that. I don't particularly care for that line item. The plural. Some of the things I do agree with upon first glance, but I'd like to ask some questions. I'd like to turn the conversation unless folks want to discuss co-curriculars some more. You good? Okay.
Anybody else have anything to say about co-curricular?
I support not getting rid of them.
Okay.
If that's what you're looking to hear.
Yeah, Melissa.
Sounds good.
I just know from my experience working in a school, there are students that is their
You need to turn on your microphone.
Is it not on?
No, it's on. It's just not close.
Oh, it's just not close enough to your mouth.
Sorry, I'm terrible about that. I would say working in a school, knowing that there are some students that is their only connection to school that keeps them coming in every day, co-curriculars are essential to the well-being of our kids.
If I could take on something I do like and something I do not like, I'm looking, although caveat, or I should say like is the wrong word, something I'm more okay with. I'm looking at lines, the 2620 equipment lines. So equipment is a broad term. I'm going to assume this is like standard everyday equipment and not say equipment for buses and things like that. This is okay. So we're talking like, what do we have? Okay. Do we have any kind of surplus within these items right now? So say like if there's, a classroom that suddenly all the desks shatter in one go, are we going to be able to, pull some from somewhere else or what?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I'm okay with the equipment line for at least a year. Hopefully not having to, pay a few dividends on that later as we have to purchase more things as things break. As they get more expensive, the concern being the cost of materials is going up now again. So, but I think with what we have to deal with, saving this amount of money for that is not necessarily a bad idea. But I really want to go back to the summer programs here at 1290. I really do not like the idea of cutting like STEAM camp. And understanding that, yes, this is a tough ask. And if it was a last resort to save, positions, okay, but that summer enrichment is really critical for kids, especially kids from disadvantaged families socioeconomic disadvantaged families who might not be able to send their kids to other kind of enrichment programs. And so I don't want to lose that for especially our schools that participate in Title I. I really, really, really cannot stress enough how I get so concerned with summer learning loss. Having two elementary age students of my own and what that can do. So, I mean, I'm willing to hear opinions from other folks, but I know I really do not like that idea.
Just a point of clarification, Title I schools would continue to offer their summer programming.
Oh, they would, okay.
Yeah, this is just the summer STEAM program.
Okay, so just that one,
Yep, Title I programs summer programs would continue to be offered. Those are funded through Title I, as well as extended school year programs. Those are obligated.
Yeah, extended school year, that was, those are special education, so those are required. I understand that. Thank you for the clarification. I still don't like it. So,
I just, for those of you who are new to the board, we did have some really fabulous presentations from students that attended all of those summer programs, not just the STEAM program, but the middle school program. And for some of those students, it was really, I guess, eye-opening, yes, is not the word. Or that was 2 words, I guess. But it was a way for them to stay connected over the summer and really help them to forge new connections when they came back into school, especially in the middle school. Middle school is tough, huh, Brian? It's fun, but it's tough.
and that it also fostered, especially in the middle school, especially in the middle school ages, because that's when they're transitioning into, from like especially some of our smaller schools, they, it gives them faces to connect with early on, before the school year starts and they're in the building with a whole bunch of other kids.
Tom.
Thank you. So I got.
Just move it closer, Tom.
Thank you. So just some questions. This is a little hard for me to see and look at because there's so many lines and so many different numbers here. So I'm going to go back to some of the things that I looked at prior to, which I shared. So is the 5 positions that
We're not talking about positions today.
Would that are not, that nobody's in?
So just to clarify, those 5 positions that we previously talked about, there are people in some of those positions.
But really, we can't talk about people.
Well, I don't want to talk about people, but I don't remember hearing that before.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going to clarify what has already been said in regards to that. So I'm not introducing new information, but I understand that must not have been clear. Our plan was to reduce the middle school faculty by 2, and then to reduce the LES faculty by 3. Those are not, the plan had been that nobody would lose their job in that situation. It would be addressed through attrition and transfers.
So attrition, right, means that somebody left, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Retirement. What I understood is we had retirements or RIFs, and those people's financials stayed in the budget. That's what I heard.
Those people, our intention was to keep those positions in the budget to build the fund balance.
Yeah.
Not RIFs, transfers.
I'll ask a very general question then. Are there positions in the budget where people are not going to hold those positions? They're just in there with not a real person in them.
The budget that we proposed had 5 positions.
Yeah. Can we, transparency, yes, we got that. And we also got that, we said at the beginning that we weren't going to discuss people. So I'm concerned that we're starting to discuss positions and people, and that's not something that we should be discussing at this meeting.
Okay, I got other questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have $375,000 that's in the CIP plan. Has that been looked at in this?
Are you talking about the?
Yeah, so if you go to the line that was in, I'm in the.
You're talking about 4,600?
The function.
Building improvement line?
Yeah, so I'll give you the number, Randy. Yeah, the 4,600 building improvement, it was increased by 100,000 for 375.
Yeah, on this paper, we pulled back on 50,000 of that,
Okay, so
to
down
see how the board,
Yeah.
if you wanted to pull back the whole increase. I mean, the idea as we laid out the new plan was to hopefully chip away at the small things on the CIP and reserve the MET for like the high school roof moving forward. Some of those bigger projects, which, we kind of tried to lay that out. And those increases would allow, for some of those smaller projects on the CIP to be taken care of.
Sure. So considering that, and I really, first of all, I appreciate everybody coming here, and I know there's some disagreements in here, but I think what I've heard from everybody in here is that we want to take care of people, and I agree. I think that the greatest resource that we have are people, and they make the biggest impact on children, so I'm all for that, and I also want to make sure that we offer everything to our kids, sports, arts, summer programming, as best we can, and there was somebody here who talked about roofs and so forth, and I would rather sacrifice that personally. So I look at that 375. That's a good chunk of money, and you have the CIP. You have the MET, a maintenance expendable trust that has $716,000 in there. I would recommend that we remove all of that 375, and then we use the expendable trust. And you could use up to $216,000, and that would leave you $500,000. And that way we're prioritizing people, programs, and kids versus projects.
Can I? Okay. I took that to heart, and I looked at it, and I also looked at the CIP. And forgive me if this goes on for a little bit, but next year's CIP line items seems to be building siding at the high school, and please, Fred, I can't see you, but correct me if I'm wrong. Fire safety and bathrooms. And while that is not, according to the CIP, a large expense comparatively to the roof, my concern is that if we rob Peter to pay Paul on that, and we steer off from the plan that has been put in place to ensure that we can actually pay for this roof, right? We're gonna be deferring building maintenance. And, shaving off $100,000 off the top of this year, I think is probably a better move so that we can kind of go with this plan because, looking at it, they want to try to get to the roof in the year 27, 28. And if we push that off for another year, what does that look like as we're trying to build the MET to do that, right? We know that if we, some of us, those of us who are in Pennacook probably are a little bit aware of, some of the municipal buildings that were not kept up, and we are now paying dividends on those within our tax base. And I don't want to get ourselves into that situation too. So I think that the offering the $100,000 between the two line items, 4,200 and 4,600, is is a good reduction that can keep our buildings going so that they're not, the roof isn't falling down upon star heads in a few years. Or it costs, instead of, I forget, was it $1.5 million or $1 million, it costs $2 million, right? Because if we defer it even longer and costs keep going up and keeps increasing, we're only gonna be paying for it more. And then we're in a situation of, in the warrant next year, do we ask for $500,000 in the MET? Or do we keep trying to build it up slowly so it's not such a large hit? That's just my 2 cents. And also, I sit on the facilities committee, so I have a lot of, I spend a lot of time with Fred talking about this stuff. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I think this is good. At least $100,000 is a good start.
David, did you raise your hand?
So,
Laura?
Hello?
Yep.
I agree with the modest cuts to the site improvement and building improvement. I think we need to not neglect what needs to be done, but not do a lot this year and save it and be prepared for when the roof comes up or whatever. I do agree with that. Also, I'd like a little bit of explanation about the middle school sports. The line is,
It's various at the end.
it's at the very end.
The $8,000?
Yeah.
So there's,
Both sides.
there's 4 different scenarios, if you will. Actually 5, I guess. One we actually put on there. That is cutting of B sports at the middle school. And, that's a smaller number. It's basically stipends and that one's not exact. The others are all, sort of ballpark. The others would be, the one below that is cutting all sports at the middle school. That would be about $90,000. Looking at high school sub-varsity sports, so that would be freshman and JV. That's about $95,000. Cutting 53% of the high school sub-varsity sports, would save around $27,000. So by cutting some of those games down, it's transportation and it's officials and some of those things. And then there's also pay to play, which at $230 per sport per student athlete would yield about $98,000. So those were all options that our athletic director put together at our request to look at some different models for sports, and if we had to make some of those cuts, what might that look like? There have been some more extreme, it's not on this sheet, but a district recently right here in New Hampshire that just cut sports entirely. So that was, I didn't put that on this list. I thought having 5 choices where sports were taking a hit, having, you know, the co-curricular and some of those things above was probably sufficient.
Okay, I'll kind of state my opinion. I'm thinking about the B sports at the middle school. The towns tend to have strong sports teams, and I think many of the kids could transition to playing there and save some money, maybe not cut it all, but certainly cut quite a bit of it. I don't like the idea of pay to play because I just don't think that'd work in our district. There's too many income disparities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That pay to play, just to add a little more context, that is accounting for anyone that would qualify for free and reduced lunch. They would be, they'd have a waiver for that, and that would also be capped at 2 sports per year. So just add a little context to that pay to play model.
So I have a couple of questions. How was the $230 per sport figure arrived at for pay to play?
I'm going to point to somebody in the crowd randomly and see if they'd be willing to grab a mic.
So good evening, my name is Kenny Edwards, Athletic Director, and I am in fact the person that put all 4 of those plans together at the request of Randy and Catherine. To answer your specific question, the $230, that number comes from 2 referees. The cost the cost we would incur for 2 referees to referee a game. That includes max amount of travel, which is why Randy mentioned a range in athletic cuts. It's because referees at the varsity and JV level get travel. We have no idea, and it's a scale of travel. So we have no idea of the exact number until those referees are actually assigned. So the $230 represents 1 game fee, which is $115, plus max travel, which would be, or no, it's $85, plus max travel is $30. For $115 for 1 referee, so we just took the 2 referees, and that's how we came up with the $230 figure.
All right, a couple more questions about this, and so that figure, well, maybe not that figure, but some sports are more costly than others in terms of dressing players and equipment. Would athletes, no matter what sport they play, be paying just that $230, or would there be like a sliding scale based on how much it costs, in fact, to dress a team?
It would be the same regardless of the sport.
Okay. I don't know, a question. Let's see. Actually, I'll hold off. My question has escaped me, and I don't want to just hold them up.
I've got one. Okay. I've got a question here about this. Okay, so right now, it looks like that's not been added into the potential cuts on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so if there's nothing in column D on your paper or what you can see up on the screen, that means it's not as a cut.
I'm going to ask a question about our other programs, you know, the arts and some sciences and stuff like that. So do we don't supply our band students with their own instruments, right? They have to like pay and stuff like that. So they already have to do this. And like, I'm going to ask about, you know, it's another one, like robotics. I assume they have to fundraise to participate in FIRST. Am I correct in that understanding?
So two things. Most of the instruments that our band students use, they have purchased, but there are some instruments that are provided by the school and that we have to maintain and replace. Certainly some of the larger and more expensive and unique instruments.
Like a
Yeah. I was thinking of, yeah.
A big drum.
In terms of robotics, robotics supplies and registration for events is funded through currently a grant. However, the stipend for the faculty that supervise that is in the co-curriculars. And they do some fundraising because then there are additional expenses that come up because we're really fortunate. We have a fantastic robotics team and they oftentimes qualify for some great opportunities, but those come with travel fees and expenses related.
Yeah, they don't tend to hold nationals in New England anymore. So I guess kind of like knowing that and understanding, you know, some of how our other extracurriculars participate in their, you know, in their club activities. And as long as we are sure to have an equitable path for students who qualify for like free and reduced lunch, I don't necessarily think any of these are a terrible idea, and I'm kind of leaning towards yes, at least on the sports lines.
For pay to play?
Yeah, pay to play, or I mean, I'd rather not cut, but pay to play or any of them.
Just a point of clarification on the free and reduced, that would be based upon self-disclosure.
Yes, of course. Yeah, just so folks are aware, the SAU doesn't know who qualifies for free and reduced lunch, so it would have to be self-disclosure, right? They would have to tell.
The only person that knows is our food service director. That's all.
Just if I can ask, which of those were you in favor of, since there are
I'm
five
kind of
different things?
more in favor of pay to play if it keeps more sports, but I will, you know, leave that to for the athletics administration to take our opinions and decide which one they think is probably the best. But yes, pay to play is one I'm kind of thinking about right now.
So, still on the subject of athletics, it's my limited understanding that there is a mechanism by which students can try out for and play for teams at other area schools if a sport is not offered here, but we still do have an athletics program. Is that correct?
Kenny may be able to jump in. So Kenny, if I misspeak, just pop that on. But if we do offer athletics, that is true. Like we might have a student who does gymnastics at Concord because we don't have a gymnastics team. If we cut sports, that option's off the table. Folks can't go and just, you know, join a surrounding town.
Just to clarify, so for instance, if we, let's say, cut, I don't know, lacrosse, do we have lacrosse? But kept football, the lacrosse players could, no? I'm confused about this.
I don't think
mechanism. Yeah.
Kenny, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yes, I spoke to Jeff Collins, the executive director of the NHIAA this morning, and Jeff confirmed that if we do not have sports here, students are not allowed to travel outside the district as long as they remain enrolled at Merrimack Valley High School. So the students would have two choices. They could transfer legally, which would involve a change in residence for the family, the parent or guardian, or they could transfer to a private school.
So Sally's question was, if we still had athletics, like we still had football, but we didn't have lacrosse, could our students who play who did play lacrosse then go to, I don't know, Concord to play lacrosse, or?
Theoretically, as Randy stated, if you had a gymnast that wanted to go to another school because we don't offer gymnastics, theoretically that would work. With a sport like lacrosse, there are so many people involved that a school like Concord, a school like Bow, Hopkinton, they're not going to give up spots on that team to residents, to students who are enrolled at that school, just to accommodate a school that wouldn't fund the sport. And that's a direct quote from Mr. Collins.
Thank you. That answer your question?
I just want to clarify also that, because I did say pay to play, but I'm also looking at what Laura said, and it was what the middle school B sports, was it? That we do have some strong out-of-district leagues, so it's also something I'm okay with as long as they still have opportunities. That's all. I figure I should probably mention that as well.
Do you know how many, I don't know if it's for you or for Kenny, do you know how many schools around the area have pay to play?
Yes, I've gotten a report from the NHADA, the Athletic Directors Association. The ones in the area, Concord High School has a $90 pay to play. I'm not sure of the details. I know the number figure is 90. Bow High School has a $100 pay to play fee, and I believe they have a family limit tacked onto that. Hopkinton also has a $100 pay to play fee, as I remember.
Thank you. Anyone else? Lorna?
I don't have a mic, so be loud. Oh. Is that one working?
Yep.
Okay. I have two questions, and I just would hope for clarification because I'm new to this. So line 2740, you've got vehicle camera replacement. I assume that's multiple cameras, and is that like on school buses?
So that that line that was increased this year is primarily for new lease purchase agreements. So we have a cycle where every year we try to get, depending on what the transportation director informs us, typically it's 2 buses, and if we get 2 this year, we're also paying the second year of another lease and the third year of another. So one is leaving as a new one is coming in, and that's been the replacement cycle. And we do have the camera replacement on some of our existing buses. Those costs have gone up, and that line had been level funded for a while, and it wasn't covering 2 large buses, which is why there was an increase.
Okay, I'm just curious. And then the other thing is you've got on 2225 equipment, you've got 301,500. It says possibly subtract 200,000 if no one-to-one initiative, no more Chromebooks. I guess I would just like, what's that about? What does that mean?
Yeah, so that equipment line, we currently have a one-to-one initiative, so every student has a device. So they get a Chromebook, and we were moving along at a pretty good pace towards that in 2017, 2018, and then when COVID hit and we had the remote learning, we were at that time doing 5th grade and 9th grade, so we were getting close to 400 Chromebooks, and then we added 1st grade because we kind of go with that 4-year. By the time a kid's done with a Chromebook after 4 years, it's pretty much had it. But we take those after they're done the 4 years, and we use them for repairs and parts and some of those sort of things. If the board were to say, let's get rid of the one-to-one Chromebook initiative, then that's a couple $100,000 off of that line. Or if we decided, because we've tried to get away from remote learning days on weather unless we had a real lot, we could look at downsizing that a little bit and maybe not doing the one-to-one for 1st grade and maybe go back to 5th grade and 9th grade. So that would save us 200 devices at a couple $100 a pop.
Because again, I'm looking at if you could cut some from that, then you go back up to the co-curricular lines. It's about $165,000. So I'm just thinking that would save those 3 things. if you held off on a Chromebook.
Can I don't want to, oh, no, Tom, go ahead. I've talked a lot.
That's okay, that's okay. So, does this, this proposal here eliminate CRT?
No, we try to put all the lines on there. It's only if it's in the right-hand column.
Got it, thank you, thank you for that. I should,
No,
no, you explained that before, Randy, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. You know, to me, and nobody's jumping up saying we should cut that, but I still feel the need to say that would be a travesty.
It would.
If we cut that
Agreed.
line.
Agreed, agreed.
We can't hurt career readiness.
No, no. So I got a couple things, and I'm going to ask maybe a little challenging question. I don't mean to after, but after I got a couple things here. There is $350,000 dedicated to vehicle cameras.
No.
No?
We're just talking about that.
It's a vehicle
Oh,
replacement.
146.
That was the increase, 146,000.
Okay.
That put the line up to 350.
Yeah, so, but nothing's been taken out of it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing in that next column.
All right, so I apologize for not catching that. I was trying to make sense of something over here. So can we take $350,000 out of bus cameras?
No, they're not bus cameras. They're
Well,
buses
just-
and cameras.
Buses and cameras?
Right.
Yeah. So the vehicle replacement cycle is typically 2 per year on a lease purchase. So if we have 2 new ones and camera, it just happens to be in the same line. I know it's a little confusing that it has vehicle and cameras, but the camera replacement comes out of that same line. But it's really the vehicle, it's the 2 buses per year. This year, we got 2 smaller buses, 2 14-passenger, to allow, you know, some flexibility for non-CDL drivers. But that's typically what that line is for. But without the increase of the 146,000, it won't cover the cost of 2 large buses. So that's the replacement cycle as buses come off the road, and we, you know, continue to move those forward.
Okay, do we need to replace?
I can look
was
out
gonna-
to our
yeah, that was gonna be my
So I
transportation
actually,
director. And
I
maybe,
actually had an opportunity to connect with Noel, and so yes, the goal would be to replace 2 of our large buses next year. That's what our need is.
I understand the goal, Catherine. Necessary.
Yeah, I was going to ask, this is an absolute need.
Right, that's what I was going to ask too.
Our transportation director is well-versed on the department. She feels we need 2 new buses next year. So I'm going to say, yes, we need 2 new buses next year.
So those buses will not go down the road next year?
We actually have 1 right now that is currently, we're concerned about making sure that we can keep that roadworthy for the duration. Like, we're currently in that situation. So yes, I mean, I trust the people that are in these positions, that they're going to inform us as to what our needs are. We had a pretty direct conversation about, we're in a tough fiscal state. What is it that we need? She feels we need 2 new buses to continue to ensure that we are able to run our routes that we currently have.
So you'd get 2 new buses for $350,000?
To be honest, that is a concern that I have, based on what the 2 14 passengers cost us this year.
And it is a lease purchase agreement, so it's a 3-year lease. So that's when I was saying that the 3rd year of the lease is going out, then the second, you know, so as part of the lease purchase, that's why it's under that total. But it wasn't going to get the job done for 2 full-size buses without that increase going in.
Could we maybe only do 1?
That's what I'm thinking,
Can we,
too.
Can we try?
We just like, or is there a way to do something similar we did with the 2 smaller buses and cycle them out that way? Is that at all an option? Either only go for 1, or if there's a way for our transportation director to speak to, can we do something similar like we did this year with the smaller buses and allow for non-CDL folks?
Yeah, I've stated what the transportation director feels that our needs are. Certainly we're gonna I can go back and can have that conversation further, as if there is any flexibility. But again, we put people in charge of these departments, and we trust that they're going to do their job, and they're going to do their job well. And I believe that she does that, and this is what her recommendation is.
I don't think we're questioning their.
No, I certainly understand that, but I guess this is we've had this conversation, and I feel very confident that the entire faculty is well aware of how dire this situation is, as you can see in a number of the concessions that they've made. So that's the best that I can answer that question.
No, I look at that one again. I think that's something, probably drop it down to 1. And we have a repair station, correct? They do their own repairs?
So we do. A challenge with that is our driver shortage, and we're very fortunate that our maintenance drives, so that is a challenge to getting things repaired efficiently.
Okay. But I would look at 1. Can you talk about the surplus in food services that's indicated in here?
So we dug into that a little bit more, and that bubble was from a while back, and looking at the reconciliation, I don't know what our actual total is, but this year we're in the hole 134,000. Last year was 156,000. So if there was that bubble still left from COVID, as we're reconciling these, one of the people that we contracted with has been going through food service and getting that through. So that surplus, if it was there when you and I spoke about during that COVID time, it's certainly not there now. And it's not atypical that food service is underwater. We pay them, we have to get them in at 0 each year, and we've never charged as much as what the meals cost. So it's always been something that runs a negative balance, and then it squares up at the end of the year. So there is no fund balance in that lunch fund.
There's no surplus?
There's no surplus.
All right, well.
Can I, oops, sorry.
Is there a line on here about food service?
There's not. This is just the general fund.
So I have so people who have contacted me said one of the things that people have said to me is to think about pay to play. I'm concerned about $230 per sport. And I know that, and I'm not saying, Kenny, that you didn't do your job, you did. Yep. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm concerned about, and I really and truly, I love you, man. No. But $230 seems like a lot to me, especially when area schools are, and I know what you're going to say, those area schools have more money than us. Yes, they do. But still, $230. I am not against pay to play. Mm-hmm. I think that that's probably the way that a number of schools are going to start to go. Mm-hmm. But I would hope that we could look at something less than $230 per student.
Yeah, because that's like
per
$400
sport.
if you have 2 kids.
I mean, and if you have, if you have a 3-sport kid, that's $690. That's a lot. I mean, so it's just something to look at, please. Can I try something at 2 sports? Yeah. Oh.
So we would cap it at 2 sports.
So if you had if
you could participate in 3, we would cap the expenditure at 2.
Kenny?
Yeah.
Turn on your
mic.
Oh, you got to get the mic. He took it away from you? Jeez.
So I totally agree with you. I hate 230. Just between me and you. Since you love me, I'm going to love you back. I hate 230. But there are other options, and there are options that are family friendly, and there are options that are student friendly that we can further explore, further research. The point was brought up, pay to play to save sports. Great idea. But there are other ways within pay to play that we can find avenues to help families and to help the kids so that every kid that wants the opportunity can play. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, just thinking about that, would there be a way to maybe put out like an ask for support from local businesses to maybe help curb that cost a little bit to lower it? Just something to think about, sir.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, is health insurance, is that what it's going to be, 300? Okay.
Thank you very much, Kathleen, for doing that. That's a fabulous thing that has happened.
Well, and to be clear about that 300, that's really 300 off of the $1.5 million increase to healthcare. So it's not like
Right.
we're subtracting 300 from our existing costs. So just so, because that was one of our biggest drivers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was, between special ed and healthcare, those were our two, by far, our two largest increases to this budget for, going into the 25-26 budget. Again, those were the two big drivers. If you remember the visual that we put together that went along with the annual report.
But that subtracts from the 1.9.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No, I was saying as far as the healthcare increase, so, sometimes when we say we're cutting 300,000, it's like, oh, good, we're going backwards. Well, we went up 1.5 million and then down 3.
Yes.
So
1.2.
Julia?
Is it on? Am I on? Okay. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah.
So if it came down to, I would like to see more one-on-one versus the Chromebooks. I mean, 200,000, that's a lot. And we spend enough time with screens and whatever. If it means we're gonna have the summer programs, totals 29,525. So I'd even consider taking that in addition to the 50,000 that we took off of either building or site, since we didn't do a good job with that area of spending this past year. I think that the kids need the programs. In fact, this entire meeting, I've been getting messages from people who are like, my kid's going to the middle school next year. We need to have that program. It's like, okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm
Thank you.
speaking up for the public.
Thank you.
My son included, he's going into 6th grade, and he was really looking forward to.
Whoop, whoop.
I know. And I'm going to have a kindergartner. So I have both ends of the spectrum here. So I think that less screen time and more outdoorsy, I think that's what we need.
So can I clarify, you're talking about for first grade? Or you mean all of them?
1,000 equals, let's just,
Well, that'd be all of them.
yeah.
So-
I mean, more hands-on learning, I think, is, we need to get away from screens.
I don't think we can get rid of all of the Chromebooks when you're thinking about getting our kids college and career ready.
Yeah, so I actually want to talk to this about, because this is the area I've been giving a lot of thought to, technology. I am, as a friendly software engineer, I tell you, I am not in favor of completely getting rid of the one-to-one initiative. We have to remember that there are some families that might not have computers in their house. And we have a lot of learning online now. And I'm not saying all learning online all the time, no. I don't really necessarily think that maybe our 1st to 4th graders need to be having a one-to-one.
I would agree with that.
I would be more in favor of, removing that, having a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. There is still some online work, but they don't need to take their Chromebooks home anymore, which is good. So I'd be more in favor of ensuring that we still give some of our students who don't have that access all the time at home, the older students who, as I understand it, a lot more middle and high school assignments are being more worked on online and submitted in that fashion, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not there yet, so honestly, somebody who's got a high schooler tell me. Yes, okay. So I think at the very least, maybe reducing the elementary school one-to-one is a good idea, because also speaking to the screen time concern, that's when their brains are really, really wiring this kind of thing. So yes, I agree. I think maybe elementary school is too early for all these one-to-one screens and putting them there. I'm not saying that's what our teachers are doing now, but if that reduces the cost at that level. The other thing I've been looking into around Chromebooks is, as Randy had said before, yes, these Chromebooks are, I think I use the equivalent, they're like the cell phones, of laptops, they're obsolete after a very short time. They're not really, they could be reused for a tiny period after, say, a student maybe got it in 9th grade, but not for very long. So I would, and in researching and how some other enterprise, businesses handle Chromebooks like this, that sometimes vendors do offer almost a buyback. So like you return a chunk. So if we, get them back at the end of their senior year, and if the vendor offers we'll give you a discount of 10% off of 200 laptops or whatever, maybe that should be something you could look into to also reduce that line item. But yeah, that's kind of how I kind of think about it.
Julia, again.
Again, yes, thank you. So maybe not the whole 200,000, but if it means that the kids get to stay in sports and get to do the summer programs, I think that we would be able to compromise that number. I'd also like to throw out, sorry, Tom, that our baseball program that I head up also has a middle school option. So if that helps at all, we do serve 13 to 16-year-olds.
Yeah, so I think that was what Jessica was talking about when she was saying that a lot of towns do have up through middle school leagues. They don't all have high school. There's not a lot of high school kinds of leagues. Can I have Sally speak and then you, Tom? Thanks.
So
Did I
the
miss something?
questions I have are actually for Fred, and these are not big ticket savings, but I'm curious, how much might we save, for instance, if we reduce the temperature in all of the buildings by a few degrees, turned off half of the lights in the classrooms during daylight hours, that sort of thing?
So can I just say something first, though, Fred, before you go there? I know that there's a bill before the legislature about the temperature in school buildings, and so just putting that out there. There is really.
I just want to note that I'm not endorsing any particular idea, but we're in crisis mode, and I think we need to consider all possible venues for saving money.
Now you can talk, Fred.
So, back in 2008, and I don't know how many of you people up there, I see one, and she just gave me the signal. Back in 2008, we did a page and a half of energy reduction. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We can save a little bit of money, and I don't know how much. We'd have to go through a year and see how much the electric bills go down. The only code that dictates the temperature of classrooms is actually in the plumber's code, with a mechanical code, building code, and it has to be 68 degrees. Right now, it's the systems in all the schools except Salisbury and Webster that don't have the JACEs are set at 70. And sometimes we battle to keep those up to 68. So I'm not going down from 70 because we hear, and you heard the laughter, we get calls all the time, it's cold, it's cold. And part of the problem is that in most of our schools, we deliver 100% fresh air. And it's still tough when it's 10 degrees outside, even though we're increasing the number of energy recovery units, which preheats the incoming air, so it's less work for the boilers to bring the temperature up to 70. So I don't think we can save money on the heat, Sally. We can save money on the electricity. We can double down. The high school has done very well here, keeping the lights in this room off until they're needed. You can turn the lights on just inside these main doors right here. we can do better with gymnasiums. If gym starts at 9:30 in a school, we don't need the lights on at 7. Even though we have, you know, we're converting to LED lighting, it's one of the things that I have planned this year. We're getting, it's $98,000, we're getting 30 back from Unitil, so out of our pockets at 68, we'll save $14,000 a year, so it's a 7.25-year payback. I don't think that's the type of thing that we're gonna cut, but we'll have to wait and see what you guys do. You know, we're on top of this as far as utilities, and, you know, I sign multiple year deals to get the best prices. We're at it, you know.
Thank you, Fred. Tom, then David.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Chromebooks. Can you explain how the one-to-one works?
So each year, first graders, fifth graders, and ninth graders get a Chromebook. So they use it for the next
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
And by then, you know, kids with a Chromebook, it's, you know, pretty well done. We take those, so we collect them and use them for parts or replacement. You know, if they're in good shape, they're the ones that, you know, if you forget your Chromebook at home, you can go to the library and sign one out, that sort of thing.
Can I just add one piece?
Sure.
Elimination of the elementary one-to-one Chromebook initiative would not mean that we would be eliminating Chromebooks entirely from the elementary school. There are a critical piece of
Sure,
our instruction.
Exactly,
So.
yeah. So my question is, instead of every kid having one, could we have class sets?
That's what the model would be for elementary.
And any, I know in other districts that kids don't always get a Chromebook. They have a financial piece to it. I would much rather see that versus sports, where a Chromebook is what, maybe, I don't know, 200, somewhere in that ballpark?
I don't know.
I think so. Somewhere.
Probably 250-ish, yeah.
250-ish. You know, if you know, they paid 100.
Never mind, 330, sorry.
330, so that's a significant savings.
Can I just ask, is that with licensure? So would then parents be responsible for paying for licensure over the course of the entire school year, school career of their child? Because licensure is not cheap.
Yeah.
Per Chromebook? Okay. Per year? One a whole time over the life cycle of the entire 4 years. Support? Okay, never mind. I stand corrected.
So I think that's something we could look at, is not pay to play sports, but maybe kids could contribute to a Chromebook.
I think we could do both.
With the free and reduced self-disclosure waiver for those who...
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the kids that financial, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
David, you're next.
And I think that's a good idea of doing both, of maybe reduce the amount lower to a Hopkinton level of $100 as opposed to the $230, but still give a little bit of an incentive there. And certainly in our district, when I'm still teaching, we did have classroom sets in many cases, and we were able to save a considerable amount of money there. Eventually they did go to full, but I think they've retreated from that. And just one last quick comment. I went to university during the oil crisis of the early 70s, and a few of us did. And certainly I know we had to cut back on lighting like crazy. And I know we're comparing apples to oranges because lighting is much more efficient now.
Yes.
But still, I think anything we did in that area that's saving something is certainly a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna throw some things. Am I on?
Yeah.
Yep. I'm just gonna throw some things on. Our CIP plan for next year is $553,000.
You need to be closer to the...
All right, sorry.
Nope, that's okay.
Our CIP is $553,000. I think we really need to take a serious look at that. I know you talked about reducing it 100.
Can I ask where you're looking at this?
I'm looking at the CIP plan.
What number?
It's on the website.
He's not looking at the lines, he's looking at the actual CIP.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
confused
so
for a
on
second.
the site under maintenance, so it's 553,000. I think we really, I mean, unfortunately, we got to make some hard decisions, and I appreciate the work that we're doing, but I think we're kind of, you know, not hitting the numbers that we need to hit. And I would really like us to think about, I struggle when we start talking about pay to play and arts and sports and summer programs. And I think that's important. I think we should just do one bus. And I'm struggling because the main thing that I want to talk about, I can't talk about, which would have the biggest financial impact. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not talking about real people. And I don't know how to have that conversation.
I actually emailed I emailed our leadership my suggestions in that same venue, and that's how we're planning on doing it out of respect for
Sure.
the requests being made. So it's not like we can't be heard. It's that it's just this is not the meeting for it right now. So you can still make that suggestion. You just got to write it out.
Well,
So when you say the CIP is $553 and you want to cut it, not $553,000, sorry.
reduce it, yeah.
What? Yeah. And you want to cut it. And I understand that, but I taught here for 23 years, had some of those people sitting in the audience. And there were a number of years that we didn't do our due diligence in terms of maintenance. And it was really awful. I remember one year when, anyway, doesn't matter. But so when we talk about cutting to the CIP or cutting money from maintenance, I just hope that we're really careful about what it is that we cut out. I know that everybody has to feel the hurt in every single area of what we're doing. But just be really careful if that's one of the things that we end up doing is cutting out some of those maintenance, because I don't want us to go back to having rundown buildings and
yeah, it's a year.
Yeah,
it's a year.
Well, it is now.
Yeah, but we're trying to make some reductions.
Yeah.
So I think that at some point, we just got to make some decisions. And I don't know where we are now as far as a number, and we haven't landed on some things, and I think that.
No, and that's.
Yeah.
Just over $1 million now, it's $1,089,000 with the changes. That's with the ones that you see up on the screen. So the couple of the changes, that's dropping the vehicle replacement to 175. I went based on what people had said. So that's.
What was the reduction, Randy, in the?
I did 175. I went with your suggestion of 1 just to see what the number came out to be. I left the site improvement and building improvement at 50,000 on both of those. We had a couple people that said 50. One person said take the whole 100. You wanted to remove the whole thing. So that's something that maybe if other folks want to weigh in on where they stand with those
So
lines
right now you got between building improvements and I can't remember what the other one's called.
The site improvements.
That total of 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I would highly recommend that number gets higher.
Okay. Hold on, because Stacy and then Laura, they had their hands up first.
I was just going to say, if we are going to start to look at CIP, I heard it was mentioned that one of the projects was for fire safety. I would just really strongly suggest that any safety items are not touched. I also support the pay to play, if we could maybe look at reducing that number a bit, 150 even, as long as the free and reduced is in there for students that might not be able to afford that, and then also support the removal of Chromebooks for elementary as well. So, but my daughter's in high school and she uses that every night to do her homework. There's really no papers coming home at the high school. So
Good. Thank you. Laura?
This 500,000 number Tom was talking about, is that money that's there? No. Or is it money in the plan? Or is
It's
it
money in the
for
plan.
this year? I don't have a piece of paper, so I can't figure out what it is.
Do you want to say that?
It's on the paper that you have. Are you talking about the CIP or the?
CIP.
Oh, okay. So Tom is looking at the CIP online, and he's just adding up what Fred has for next year. But if you look tomorrow, that could be different. So, when Stacy mentioned the fire safety, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, but, we have, every 10 years, we need some, they're not sprinkler heads, Fred, what are they? They are sprinkler heads, okay. But it's on the dry system, right? Those are the ones that need to be replaced?
It's money
Most of them are dry heads, but there are some other ones as well. All totaled, I believe it's either 63,600 or 66,300. It's mandated. Can't cut that. Obviously I'm gonna work around whatever the decision you folks make, but that's something that will get done this summer.
So that's money that's planned to be spent, or was originally planned to be spent this year?
Correct, yeah. So this coming year, Fred's always in the CIP playing around and moving things. If they don't need to be done and we can put them off, he puts them off. If they need to be done, like those, dry head sprinklers, then he puts them on there and kind of locks those in. Other things are fluid. Honestly, if you looked a month ago, the next 3 years wouldn't look anything like, what they did a couple months ago, so.
Okay, now Jess.
No, thank you.
Are you changing from the CIP?
No, I'm continuing with CIP work. Yeah. So I'm looking at the CIP, right? And the biggest ticket item is the roofing siding at the high school. Am I correct? The siding essentially is what it means.
Yeah, the roofing is 228,500, and what I'm trying to do there is pick away at that $1.8 million. The siding in the high school, middle school, and Loudon is the gray siding that you see outside on the high school, the exterior stairwells and the blue portico. Middle school is the tower, and Loudon is over the main entrance. That can wait. It looks horrible, it's cracking.
That's what I was gonna
It can
ask.
wait. I have it on there for some of them, but that's a perfect example of what something can kick back a year.
If the siding is not something that is imminent, right, or will not damage our buildings long-term, can we scoot it for another year and reduce this number even more?
Maybe 5 years before we do it. It all depends what else comes up.
And then, say, you find a magical grant of some kind to assist with it. But if we can scoot the siding, definitely not the bathrooms or the fire safety or that kind of thing, and we can reduce that number even more without hurting our buildings so that, we're paying extra in a year or two. I'm in favor of lowering that even more, but I would like you to work a little bit, do a little bit more of a brainstorm session together for Monday to kind of give us a better idea of what that would look like.
Tom?
Yeah, so I realize that Fred moves the CIP around, but as it sits now, what's in the CIP is 553,000, and what's budget is 631,000. So we've actually got more in the budget than is in the CIP, and I would recommend.
But don't forget that, no.
So
Does that
between the s-
include maintenance?
It's not just the CIP.
Right.
This includes maintenance, right?
This isn't feeding just the CIP.
Okay, I did the site improvement and I did the
Building improvement.
building and site.
Yeah.
Comes up to 631.
Right, but it doesn't include just the CIP. That includes, Fred, that includes regular maintenance?
It includes some regular maintenance. You know, I've added more stuff into the CIP that normally wouldn't be in the CIP, that would be covered by repair and maintenance in the operating budget, the 5430s. So that 553, I mean, that's what I planned on doing before the budget was cut, between building improvement and site improvement. Obviously, all of those things aren't going to happen, but I really can't talk about what's not going to happen until there's a number settled on. But the sprinkler heads, 63.6 or 66.3 is going to happen, and to put a handicap opening in our sidewalk out underneath the blue portico roof, and that's 15,920, I believe. That is also going to happen. And whatever you guys decide on, I'll make it work. But, you know, and Tracy mentioned it, when I took over in 1997, there were Band-Aids galore in this school district. And when Randy Bell asked me what I needed, I said money. And that kind of led to the 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8 construction. You know, we got $100 million worth of buildings and grounds here, and it costs money to take care of that. You know, we have 71 air handling units or energy recovery units on the roofs and in attics. Those aren't cheap, and a lot of them are closing in on 40 years old. I understand. I want to do my part in helping to keep teachers, but you can only cut it down so much. And you know, Tom mentioned, well, it's 1 year, and then Tracy mentioned it is now. We can't sustain hundreds of thousands of dollars of cuts more than a year or two. So I'll deal with whatever you guys decide. It's a tough decision.
So so I'm looking at this, Tom, and the site improvement and the building improvement, you're right, adds up to 631, but we took out 100, so it's 531 now, right?
Yes.
Yes. So you would like to see more taken out of site and building?
Personally, yes, and I think, you know, a couple things. I'll jump to something I was going to say at the end. I think that you can use some of his MET this year, and I think we can. This is a big area, and then I really start when we get in our finance meetings and really start to think about where do we want to be in 3 years, and start planning for that, and think about, you know, what if we want to get to I don't know, 1 million or 1.5 million. What does that look like as far as warrant articles? But I think that this year, I mean, I'm all for. I mean, if you cut that back and allow that MET, if we allow that MET to be used, we can have a significant chunk.
I can support taking out the 100 that was put in for each one.
So 200 total.
200 total.
Okay, getting there. Thank you. Yeah, but I mean, we're just.
Yeah, no, we're throwing things out, but yeah, I could support that.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is just a conversation then on Monday, we will look at, what, 3 or 4 scenarios?
2 or 3 based on, we seem to be circling around.
Okay.
We seem to be circling around a lot of the same things, so I don't think.
Yeah.
I think because some of the options are things that people don't seem to be for. So, you know, if the board, you know, so desires, we could either bring 1 or 2 options based on the fact that
Probably 2
there
or 3.
seems to be some,
Yeah.
you know, overall agreement with some of these lines.
I did, I was remiss in the beginning when I did not thank the different collective bargaining units for their work that they did to come up with the things that could be cut. L'Oreal, I'm sorry, I saw you sitting there and I was like, I never said anything. And Sam for the administrators. I really appreciate, and Gail, is Gail here? No. So, and Gail for the support staff. I really appreciate all that you did when you said these are things that we can forego for next year to help us come up with a plan that doesn't too badly affect what has to happen. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys.
There is a representative from MVSSA here. The vice president is here. Gail had to go out of town.
Thank you, darling. I appreciate all, I'm sorry, I really appreciate all that you guys did. I really, really do. And when I came in, I was talking with some of the teachers and I said, I really wish that it hadn't come down to you guys having to give things up. Thank you.
Randy, what's our number at now?
The number is almost 1.2 million.
Okay.
And honestly, with the other things that we have, we're right on target with some of the things we were looking at with attrition and movement for some of the things.
Perfect. Good news.
It's great news. And you don't know where I'm going. Can we, if it's reputation or whatever it is, can we speak in non-public about these things so that I can get some clarification? More than that. More than that. But it's, yeah, I'm going to promise you, it's not about one position going away. It's not. Nothing about that. I'm not asking to take a physical person that we have and not offer them a job. That's not what I'm talking about.
We were told no when I asked that specific question.
And I asked Barrett Christina from the
Sure.
School Boards Association, and I asked Jim O'Shaughnessy, our legal, and I was told that we couldn't talk about people.
Can we in non-public?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The advice we received was that in order to be transparent, we need to have these conversations in
Sure.
public.
Sure.
And they said not non-public. So, I mean, when I talked to them, so that was, you know, I mean, I wanted to know. I called and
No, I believe you, Tracy. I believe you. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I tried to say, well, what if we do this or do this or do this? And you know, I'm tired of hearing that we're not transparent.
Sure.
I'm out there doing my due diligence. I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can.
Okay. I just don't know how to address this because it's a big number and it adds a big number to that.
Mhm.
And
I think that you're going to need to send it to me and to Catherine and to Randy. And then it will be on, it could be on the scenarios for next week, and we can vote on it.
Tracy, just for clarification on the situation, just because we're not going to be speaking to these open positions or whatever we're going to call them, that's not to say that Randy and Catherine are already looking at those to be absorbed in these cuts and stuff, correct? Right, okay. I just wanted to.
I would remind you, one of the priorities that we have had as we've been taken on this challenge is retaining as many of our faculty as we can.
Yeah. Also, while I have the mic, and I know a lot of people have left, and I don't know if this is the right time, but I just wanted to take a step back and have everybody acknowledge that voted to cut the budget, thinking that there was a lot of fluff in it, and just realize what we're sitting here talking about right now. And just keep that in, it's not fluff that we're talking about. I mean, I know my student's gonna be impacted, as well as thousands of other kids. This is not fluff, and this is the result of a group of people cutting the budget down. So just some reality for everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I don't want to keep swiping, but like,
Go ahead.
I've
Swipe or no swiping?
My God, I've spent so long on this in 3 weeks. I know.
Exactly.
Tom had brought up something a while back, and I just have a question about our snow maintenance and stuff like that. Is that contracted service? Is that contracted services, like the snow maintenance lines and things like that, that we can't like maybe renegotiate a contract, or is that just outright general funds that we maintain ourselves?
So I actually think Fred spoke to plowing
Yes.
at the annual meeting.
Remind me.
Sure. Well, then I'm gonna let Fred do that.
Fred, remind me, please.
It's line number 2630.
There's a line in the budget for snow plowing and sanding. There's $93,000 in it. Right now, I believe we have spent, it was 45, and I believe I just submitted a bill last week for 17,000, so we're about 62. We went up several years ago, I want to say $16,000. It went out to bid probably 5 or 6 years ago. I can tell you that Mall's Farm has plowed the Pennacook schools in Bosquen since 1996, the rest of the district every year since 1966, but one. We have never had to cancel school because they couldn't get their job done. And I would say I could count on one hand the number of times they have asked for a delay.
And forgive me if I just misheard. So you said it was like 45 and then another 17?
Up to right now, yes.
For right now. And there's still, towards the end of the year, I know that we've budgeted about $93,000, I believe was the
Correct.
line item. It doesn't, I mean, please correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but it doesn't sound like we might need $93,000 if we were to shave it down a little bit more, or is there like going to be a surprise snowstorm next week?
You know, it all depends on the weather, but you know,
Yeah.
that 93,000 is for all the schools in the district. So I have a contractor in Loudon that plows and sands, have a contractor in Salisbury that plows and sands, and Webster, the road agent, town of Webster plows and sands, and then we mow the soccer field, the baseball field, and town hall. In exchange for that, we have a memorandum of understanding. Not quite sure what that is. But I can stick my tongue out, so I'm safe. It all depends. I mean, if we get a foot of snow over a weekend, money's going to be gone. You know, we also use that line to clear roofs.
Oh, okay.
We haven't had to do that. I think we did it once 3 years ago, but only part of them. I'm not having anybody clear the roofs over. We're only doing roofs over with the large opened areas. We're not doing it over hallways and classrooms anymore.
I guess just my thought process is if, we find that towards the end of this, wintry season, obviously not being able to predict weather, if there's even a way we can shave off $5,000 or $10,000. I know we're nickeling and diming this a little bit, but honestly, that's the point where we're at, right? Like, we want to look at everything. So if there's any way to even say, hey, we spent this much this year, this much last year, this much this year, maybe we don't need to budget 93. I would appreciate that.
So we're actually just a hair under 70,000 spent this year. And I have bad news if you thought winter was over, because if we look back historically, we spent more than that. So I would anticipate that more of that will be spent.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Fred,
Tom?
do we use our actuals for the fields and grounds? Are those utilized?
Do we do what?
With our actuals for the fields and grounds, do we traditionally spend all that money?
Well, I hire a company, Boston company, that they were being used before I got here. They do a great job. That's $70,000 a year for fertilizing, seeding, herbicide, that type of stuff. And I think he came in this year at 68 and change. So we use all of that. And you can see on the list that they took some money from replacement equipment, which is in grounds. So they've already cut that, some. But, snow plowing, I mean, that's a place, some years we spend it all, some years we don't. And if we over it, then we have to, I'll find it somewhere else.
Tom, can I ask a follow-up to your question?
Of course you can.
Mine? Okay. So this is going to be a tied conversation a little bit. If we are looking at reducing sports activities, would that potentially reduce costs within maintenance of our fields and that line item as well?
It's not going to reduce the price for the company that comes in and does the aerating and the seeding and the fertilizing, no.
Okay, but upkeep?
Well, what we do on the athletic fields on this campus is we get them ready to play, which the athletic director thinks we're going to start next week. Because he said he feels good about it this year.
He just cursed us with more snow.
So Kenny and I and Aaron, who runs the grounds department, we go out and we walk the fields. And then we have Frankie Donati, who owns the company that just bought out Boston Company. Same as we did with June Boston for 25, 30 years. And she recommends when we can start using it with just sneakers for 2 weeks, and then they can get on and play normal. The cost, most of the cost is mowing. So when the athletic season is over in the spring, we raise up the mowers probably 3/4 of an inch, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it is. And then we cut it 3 inches, 3/4 of an inch higher, an inch higher than we play on them. And then first or second week in July, we start taking 1/4 of an inch off every week or two, because they're back on the fields again in the beginning of August. The problem is if we let it grow higher than that, then we have to bag it. It's not like our lawns at home where you can just spray the grass out and it's actually good for can't do that on athletic fields.
Thank you for the clarification.
And saying that, I mean, coaches, athletic directors from around the state rave about our fields. But, Bosquen, for instance, there's clay underneath the loam on the field up there. We have to mow that 3 times a week in the summertime. There's just no way around it, or we have to bag it. And bagging it, if you bag it, you got to drive somewhere to dump the bags and then go back and keep going. Can we save a little money? We'll certainly try.
So since we're, having some radical ideas right now, I would like to point out that because Pennacook is a city in this district, and we share municipal venues with Concord. We should have the availability to use city fields as well as Memorial Field. And I was wondering, has anyone considered using municipal fields instead of ours, and just for at least 1 year, pulling back on maintaining those fields and saving this money, and then next year seeing if we could reopen this?
I don't see that happening. I don't think that we have an inherent right to use the city of Concord's fields.
We actually do, because I've spoken to some Concord school board members. We are on equal pairing with the, or I should say that, it was my understanding when I was speaking to Concord School District that we are on par with the city in making requests on fields, and that there had been some concerns in the past because we weren't exactly receiving that. But I'm hoping that that was something that you guys could look into and ask as just a potential. I'm not saying I agree with it.
And certainly
I'm
look
saying it's a
into it.
thought.
We used Rolfe Park for a number of years, and then we started building our own fields, and we got away from that because we didn't need to. You know, Memorial Field, I don't think they're going to be too keen whether or not we can or not. They're not going to let us play a Memorial Field because that's got a whole smorgasbord of problems in itself. I mean, half the time the main field down there is underwater.
Underwater.
But, yeah, Kenny and I can look into that. Kenny has a very good relationship with David Gill, the Park and Recreation Director down there. We'll certainly look into that.
I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback on
Julia?
just to Jess?
Yeah, sure.
So I just know that, like, imagine if you don't mow your lawn for a year. The amount of work to make the field playable.
Oh, yeah.
It would not benefit the players at all to take a year off, just saying.
And I'm curious if there would be a transportation impact if our kids had to be transported to a field that's further away.
Yeah.
So,
Parents would have to drive them.
so, and we know the transportation costs are kind of out of control.
Ridiculous.
So that would be something I'd want to consider too, because if we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, we're not really saving any money.
Yeah.
But while I have the mic, we've been talking a lot about pay to play, pay to have the kids have pay to use the Chromebooks. Could we look at having some sort of pay for the summer programs, because these are extra? These are things we put in place because we felt they were valuable, but as we're cutting the budget, is this somewhere else where if a family wants their child to participate in a summer program, that's not a federally required for us to meet, is that another area where we could be looking at a cost? You know, we offer a lot through this district, and the budget reflected that, and we are looking at everything. So if we're going to look at pay to play sports and pay to use a Chromebook or have a Chromebook, we should also be looking at our extra things that we're offering that are above and beyond what we need to offer all students because we believe in them. But just another area that we could be looking at, maybe there's a tuition cost for participating in those activities.
I don't want to steal it again if somebody else has another opinion.
I'll steal.
Go for it.
If we're considering summer programs educational, I mean, we don't make students pay for education. I just think that putting a tuition on that would, I'm not.
So you're not in favor of that?
I'm not in favor.
Julia said
And that's
exactly
totally
what I
fine.
was gonna say.
It's just that and I agree. I think personally I believe in year-round school, but that's a whole nother discussion. I think that it's extra. And if we're looking at the extras, then we look at everything. It's not something that we have to do. We are doing it because we do think it's in the best interest of students. But again, it's above and beyond what we are required to provide for students. So.
David and Sally.
How many students are we talking about in these summer programs, just to get an idea? If we did a nominal fee, I'm just going to throw out a number off the top of my head, $50 or something like that. What kind of money are we talking about? I don't want to be impacting people because they're paying on top of their property taxes, obviously. But just what's the number?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
But it's,
Over 100, I'd say.
yeah, we're not, so, go ahead.
So we've been with the exception of the elementary program, we've been funding the middle and high school through grants. So we have been able to run some really fantastic programs.
We're not going to be able to do that.
I'd have to look back. I believe our summer programming through the grant last year ran us at around 40,000. In terms of student participation at the middle school level, Brian Lynch might be able to speak to that.
How many kids? 70.
And I think there are about 40 in that.
40?
40 to 50, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
I would estimate the summer STEAM programs, summer participation, and it's a rough estimate, I would say at around 30.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we capped it at 50 last year.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm not saying I totally support not funding it. I'm just looking at anywhere we are looking at making cuts, we should be looking at across the board if we're trying really hard to not lose teachers, if that's our focus. So just like I said, one more opportunity to look at another line, because I do believe in summer work, but again, we've got to look at everything.
Sally?
I'd like to go ahead and support what Melissa is saying, because if our goal is to protect teachers and provide the, what the programs throughout the school year that are essential to students' education, then that has to be our focus. And if that means that we need to move to pay-to-play or setting price tags on some of the extras, I think that is the hand that we have been dealt, and that, again, preserving positions and people and the integrity of the education that we offer during the school day and during the school year is of primary importance. And I also just want to qualify that by saying, I'm not thrilled by any of this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ask a question maybe about a situation, because I too agree, and I don't like it either. My concern is, again, obviously, families who qualify for free and reduced lunch, but families on the line as well who might not. I was hoping that maybe if we could look at a way for families or other folks who would be willing, say like the summer STEAM program is $50 a student, and I wanted to give 100 so I could sponsor another student. If we could figure out a way around, like, just understanding the legality of that impact, because something like that, just so our community can maybe, if they choose to do so, can do so. And that includes sports too, obviously.
Thank you.
Or a sliding scale.
I would just add, so every time we move to this pay-to option, there's an increased level of work that is going to go along with all of those in terms of
yes,
keeping up with this, running all of that down. So just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. I appreciate the reminder that admin work is also on top of this.
Tom?
Randy, what's our number up to now?
Just under 1.2.
Okay, so, and we're going to add to it, and a big number. And I just want to remind everybody, so at the Friday meeting, the 5% contingency was passed, right? And
Up to 5%.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we got to give some credit here, because Randy, Catherine, maybe Kathleen, I don't know who's doing the books, but you do not have a business administrator, which is a full-time position of somebody that's an accountant. Somehow you're doing it, and you need to be commended for that. So I don't know who to commend, but Nice job.
All of them,
Right?
the whole SAU.
Okay, right, so,
And,
and
yeah.
Julie, maybe, I don't know, so
The whole-
whoever's over there.
The whole
You got-
SAU, and we
Yeah.
have, and I was looking to see, because one of the complaints was that our SAU is overstaffed, and I was looking, and we have, of a similar sized district, we have the second lowest number of people who work in our SAU office. So we're not overstaffed.
I wasn't going there.
No, I know,
yeah,
but it.
It allowed the opportunity.
All right, but you're gonna have a BA. And so my guess is you're not gonna spend every penny, you're gonna make it work this year. You might have, I don't know, 75, 100, 150,000 maybe, in fund balance, which you can apply to that contingency, because that was the first thing on the warrant, if I remember right. So you could do that, and that would go into next year. And come next year, let's just go with, you're not gonna, this 2 million thing isn't gonna happen again, and just go with the 1% that you talked about, that you mentioned, that generally where we are, that's $500,000, and the board has control over that money. I know it's a little bit of a gamble, but I don't think this is gonna happen again. We had, I don't know, I don't know how far back you went, Randy, but you mentioned several years back that it was 1%. So that's $500,000. And this is where I would say that, and Fred, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going after you a little bit, but if we could take a little bit more money out of that CIP, and then when we get to June and we have $500,000 in there, and we have $100,000 in that CIP, you got money to do some of those things that we've been talking about, that we've been worried about, that we can't do. So there's just so that the board knows that that is something that can happen, right? That we could use some of that money.
I do have to check. I'd need some clarification on when. I know that you said first, and that is true for, we have special ed first, and then we have the maintenance.
I thought we had
No, we had the contingency, but
Okay.
because that's going to be something that is going to be until it's voted away,
Yeah.
it's in place. So I'm a little bit unclear on whether the special ed maintenance, the special ed trust fund would get funded first, then the maintenance expendable, then whatever's left would be up for the contingency. So.
Contingency has to be for unforeseen.
Right. Yeah, the contingency is for unforeseen things, so it can't be something that we have in the CIP or whatever else.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. But take away the contingency, and you still, if you have $500,000, we could use 200, 250 for CIP projects, which that we can do, right? So
Yes.
just something for everybody to think about. So if we, because we're getting pretty darn close here, considering that
Yeah.
that other thing that can't talk about.
I think that where we're at right now, I think that we'll be able to bring a couple of options to the board with some of the things that we've looked at. So I think this number, I know that we're still, chipping away at, but I think we're going to have two, well, at least one very palatable option, and then either a second or third that, would be
Might not be
something,
as palatable.
based on this feedback and the numbers. I've been throwing them in as we're saying this after, so if three people, I feel, if people haven't spoken up, then that means they're either in agreement or, which
Or
is
they
why
don't
I've
get
been
a say.
choosing them.
So, I know we've been here a long time, but can I just, how much money is in there where we're asking families to pay? Roughly, how much is that?
You mean if we started doing all of this pay to play?
Yeah, what have you guessed in here?
Well, if we knock down sports to 100, some of the things, if we're talking about all summer programs, we haven't circled back around to co-curricular, so I don't know if it's the board's intention that co-curricular would fall in that same thing. If so, Lego Club is probably going to be different than robotics, right? Because we have the Legos, you show up, that's after school. You know, some of that would be, you know, is your kid in 10 of those different, you know, do you go Lego and then chess club and all the different ones? I don't know what that charge would look like. I mean, we can try to dig into that, but you know, there's a couple things. There's co-curricular, there's summer programs, and then there's sports. You know, if we're going to do all three of those, I don't know with co-curricular, that seemed to be taken off the table early, so I don't want to bring it back on. But if we're talking about pay to play, maybe it's pay for those as well. We'd really have to dig into those numbers.
Okay, so I probably didn't ask the right question then, Randy. How much did you subtract from those to get to wherever we are?
Actually subtract anything for the pay-to-play stuff?
The pay to play, oh, I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't understand.
No, it's not, you're fine.
I didn't put anything in, so I left that. The only thing I kept in there was B sports, because folks were saying we have town programs, and that seemed like, and that $8,000, Kenny, do you have a sense on B sports? I know.
So my sense on B sports is it's mainly soccer, boys and girls soccer in the fall, and boys and girls basketball in the winter. There are no B sports programs in the spring. I think it was Julia that mentioned that there are very vibrant programs in the community that could absorb those students and would be willing to absorb those students and will probably give them as good of an experience as they're getting right now.
And as far as the total, I put 8,000 down. Does that seem like a number that would cover the stipends and officials, or?
I would have to revisit that. It sounds like it's in the neighborhood, but
Okay.
I'd have to do a deep dive into their schedule and all that.
Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but when I was just putting that out. So Tom, to get back to your question, that's the only one I put any money on. I didn't put anything under pay to play. So if we were going to do $100 the pay to play, we have, 230 is about that 98,000. That was for all of them. So if we cut that in half, that'd be
26 students.
426.
Yep, times 100.
So that would be another, maybe 50,000 if we were going to cut that down based on when people were saying they're not in favor of 230, but might be in favor of a smaller number.
Okay, so I guess where I'm going with this, based on what I said about a fund balance, which I have full confidence that we'll have next year, I would rather reduce something, a project or something, and not have any kids pay to play, not have any lost B sports. I want all our teachers and all our activities for our kids is what I really want to get at. So I would rather take a chance at a project that we can't do, that we could live without if it came to that. But when we come to, I know we're gonna have a fund balance, that we could use that money in June to take care of those things. I would rather do that, personally.
Can I talk? Did you want to talk? Randy, I just want to clarify that it says my initials under 100% removal of middle school. I can only speak to baseball. And so I don't, not 100%, maybe like 10%. So like, just to be clear, I don't think soccer or basketball is offered for the middle school age group. So baseball, I can support, other, not so much.
Laura?
Okay, I think we don't just go, oh, well, let the towns take care of it. I think we need to talk to the towns. I know Loudon has some pretty good programs in different areas. I'm pretty sure the other towns do. We need to work with the towns to make sure that the kids can go there and figure it out from there.
Thank you. Sally?
Tom, can I ask you to clarify something, please?
Absolutely.
So you're counting on a fund balance, even though that money isn't guaranteed. Is that correct? In the plan that you have just forwarded.
I am, but looking at projects that we could potentially live without.
Okay.
That could be delayed.
So I'm very wary of counting on money that might not show up. And so I just want to put that out there. Maybe we'll have a fund balance, but, and so I really don't want to, I can't support an approach that is based on what we don't know at this point. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you.
Tracy?
Julia?
Can I make a motion?
Boy, all of a sudden you are like talking about everything.
It's because I'm tired. Can I make a motion to go to public comment so we can?
Do you want to wrap this part up?
Can I
That's
just
fine.
say one last thing?
You may say one
Promise
last
it's one
thing.
last thing. First, I want to thank the administration for all the work that they are doing. We have received so much communication from the staff, and it speaks volumes to a leader when the people that they are responsible for sings such high praise for them. So thank you for all the communications we've been getting. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. Thank you. Secondly, I assume, obviously, you know, we've gone through and we've talked about a bunch of things. There's a lot of things we haven't talked about. I assume that if board members have opinions on other things before Monday, we can still throw out emails to you to kind of say, oh, I thought of this, like, you know, when I was driving home.
I would say
kind of thing.
not on Monday.
Yeah, please don't do it on Monday. Maybe
put it
close
out
of
there.
business Thursday. I don't know. But we can still communicate if there's questions we have or suggestions or things like that, right? Okay.
And please remember to direct it to the chair and Randy and Catherine. I was getting really nervous with the questions that were coming, and I want to make sure that we're respectful of the fact that we have to, anything we put there, those discussions would become public. We didn't have any. I kept my hat on and my eye on that. But we do need to make sure we're directing everything to Randy and the chair and Catherine so that they can funnel it to the rest of us if we need to know ahead of the meeting. So I appreciate everybody respecting that, not having a dialogue online.
Thank you.
Can I just say what?
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry. I
Nope,
know
that's
I
fine.
I talk a lot.
I know.
Yeah, talk to my wife. So.
Where is Jenny? Can you curb that?
So, can I ask a question about what class sizes are? Is that okay?
I think they vary. I'm not sure. Can you? Do you have that? While you're.
I can, and I can pull up specific.
Yeah.
Pull up schools to talk about what they're currently at.
I don't want to.
Want me to run you through? I can go through the elementaries, if that's helpful.
And will I be able to ask a question?
As long as it's
How about
not
if
about a
she
person.
sends you the information, or I send you the information on class size and what we expect them to be next year? Is that?
Okay, that will
that
be
work
good,
for you?
and I'm sure you'll consider it. Okay, that would be helpful. But can you just tell me what the class size is at the elementary?
Well, so it varies somewhat widely right now. Obviously, let's set Webster and Salisbury aside because they are smaller schools.
Singletons.
So at Pennacook, they're over 50 per grade level, and they have 3 teachers per grade level. At Boscawen, they are, well, they do fluctuate quite a bit, but between around 30-ish up to slightly over 50 within that building. They are, per grade level. At Loudon, they are right around 40 per grade level with an exception for, they have one grade level that's over 50.
And how many teachers per grade level, like at?
So Pennacook has 3 per grade level, Boscawen has 2 per grade level with one exception, they have that larger class. And then Loudon has 3 per grade level with one exception being, with one exception.
Okay, can you send me that data?
Yes.
Okay, and the number of teachers and okay. Can I just say thank you that this happened tonight? I'm very much appreciative. Unfortunately, I will not be here on Monday. I have a conflict, and I cannot get out of that conflict with my professional career. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk and share. And I'll be reaching out with some suggestions, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And can I just say that I was, I feel like I was rude when I spoke of the teachers. The president of the Merrimack Valley Education Association is L'Oreal Jordan Foote, and I just called her L'Oreal. And of the Merrimack Valley Administrators Association is Sam York, and I just called him Sam. And Jen Woodard is the vice president of Merrimack Valley Support Staff Association. And just so you know, they're all former students of mine.
I have a quick question just about the number of students and ratios. I don't know the numbers, but I know that there's significant homes being built, especially in Pennacook. Yeah, at Boscawen as well. I don't know about the other towns, but Catherine, when you were mentioning anticipated numbers for next year, is there some insight into how that's going to impact our numbers? I guess I'm concerned with class sizes if we have a significant enrollment increase due to those housings.
Yeah. It's going to have, it would certainly have an impact. If we're speaking about Pennacook, we do have three teachers per grade level.
Okay.
There, and if that's certainly a community that oftentimes faces the greatest amount of transitional situations.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes that business. I'd like to, Fred, are you ready? Public comment.
Thank you to the board and Randy, Catherine, everyone. I love seeing these kids here. That was the highlight of my night. Great job. I just want to say you guys have thrown out a lot of things, and I don't know, some of my colleagues might be upset with me for saying this, but if it comes down to it and you could put back in the summer program stipends for teachers, a lot of us are going to do the work anyway because we have to be able to do our job. So I would love for that to be put back in. And obviously it doesn't affect me because I retired in the nick of time. You're welcome. But I do know for my colleagues that's an important thing. So I don't know how much that money is because I can't see that fine print. But that would be an area that I would ask. I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Shannon Mottram from Loudon. I just want to make a comment about the pay to play. I have 4 kids in the district, and all of them are athletes. And I know a few of you had mentioned like you don't want, the families to have to pay. And just coming from a family that that's all we do is, if anybody knows me, you know that usually I'm going to a sport event for my kids. My oldest would probably kill me right now if she knew I was even saying this. But $230, yes, it does sound a lot. And if my husband even knew I was saying this, he would tell me to be quiet because I'd have to pay for all 4 of my kids. But actually, in reality, it doesn't. And I was just saying before, if you've ever paid for travel, it's minimal. And I have the full belief in that we have boosters and that the sport community could really take care of a lot of that with fundraising. So when we say like, no, I want the, the kids not to have to worry about that, or the parents, we've been actually honestly been paying that the whole entire time that these kids have been playing sports. I think I've paid over $80 per one of my children through ICB, through Blue Storm. I just paid $300 in signups for lacrosse for my kids, $100 per kid. I paid $200. That's going to be coming up for my son to play tackle through Blue Storm. So those are all things, and when those families can't pay, you go to the community, you go through the program and you talk with them. So we do have that here, like they said, with the lunch program. So there are options. So I think if it does help us this year, and not only that, it does put a little responsibility back on the families. I think there's been a lot in the school district that we've taken on. We pay for everything. We pay for school supplies, we pay for this, we pay for that. So I think in the long run, if that's what we could pay for, I think that's something that the parents could take on. And like I said, if they can't, then the schools, they're there to help that. And we do have fundraising, we have boosters. I think that's something to consider, is the pay to play.
Thank you.
Dave Hemingway Webster. There has been a lot discussed tonight, and I think it's been a very productive and good conversation, especially in the transparency of having all of it here. There's kind of two ways that you can look at how to handle this. And I want to caution you that the numbers that you're looking at do fall in both categories. And so as a board, I want you to think about this when you go to vote, and as administration when you're presenting options. It's one thing to say, this is a one-year hitch because we need to weather through it. We will make up for it with, for example, using some of the maintenance expendable trust instead of using maintenance budget line. It's one thing if you think and are confident that this is just 1 year. We need to make it through this 1 year, restore confidence, and then go back to fully funding the way that we want to fund it. And that's great if you're just trying to find particular items for 1 year. The second way to think of it is that the reductions in growth that have been put forth may not go away. And that may happen again next year if you try to just recover everything. And the second set of options, whether it's for things like pay to play, help in, or have a portion for the Chromebooks. Those sorts of options are things that can very easily continue forever to help offset every single time. Whereas you can't continue to draw down a maintenance expendable trust fund that you're not funding. So I just want you to very clearly think about and express in terms of the way that you decide on things. Can you afford this to be a 1 year only, or do you really need to look at all of those different programs so that it's less of a hit in all of the further years and much more sustainable? Thank you.
Thank you.
Trace Pastor Ash Loudon. So one of the big things, I appreciate you guys making this meeting tonight and sharpening the pencils. And again, I think the taxpayers will be more willing to support if there's transparency, render their support once we know the actuals, like we were seeing in other school districts where they're actually putting that information right out there for us. We are the ones that are funding and we want to make sure that it's being used appropriately. I think one of the big takeaways for me tonight, coming from my background in corporate America, is every contract should be being put out to open bid. Chromebook for $300 is actually quite high when you're buying them in bulk. Having a company from Boston come and take care of our lawn, and that's never gone out to open bid since Fred has been here, that's not how you really run a business. So we need to be looking at this in order to make certain that the children and the teachers and the fundamental constitutional responsibility we have to educate our children, that we're doing it as judiciously as we possibly can. You know, I still don't know when we walk away tonight whether or not we have a salary and a benefit that holds a body, like Randy said. We're not talking positions. Positions don't equal people, I think is what you said on last Monday. I still don't know if we have people who are going to actually not have a job with the SAU. And I don't think that's fair to the faculty. I think we should be able to understand that at this point. Without taking names, without saying which school, which grade, we should be able to give some sort of clarity to that, because there's, you know, in the paper everywhere else, we're cutting 20 people. And that's scary for the children, that's scary for the faculty. It's not nice. I would also ask that we take a look at Washington Street. That's an older building. I know it serves a purpose, but I can't imagine that it's a cheap thing to maintain. So that might be something we look at. And I'm grateful that you were able to get a better contract for the health benefits, the 95 or 90% coverage that the SAU provides. And I would again say that we need to look at that capital improvement plan, make certain that the children and the teachers are not harmed this year, and then that we get as transparent and as clear with the actuals as we possibly can, so that when you go into the vote next year, you have the taxpayer support. And I do think bringing it back to the families a little bit for some of the extracurricular, doing boosters and fundraisers, takes it away from the 75-year-old who's really having a hard time right now with paying their property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing anybody else? Anyone? Anyone? We are adjourned. Thank you.